Excuse me, I'm gonna answer the question.
I'm so upset. Oh my God.
All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Ugaranik Kasparian with you guys. So, you're gonna see a common theme in today's show, which is US government officials and media figures who brazenly, openly work for Israel and try to take away our rights. And we're gonna prove that to you. We don't do anything without facts. We're gonna show you a number of stories here where basically we've got a war on Americans led by Israel, but most importantly by the sellout Americans who work for them and who betray this country. So let's be very clear about it and let's be factual about it. Anna, get us started.
All right, well, we actually begin with the latest efforts in reining in rights for Americans on behalf of a foreign country. And of course, that foreign country is Israel. It's the only foreign country that the United States will violate the rights of American citizens for. So let's get to what I'm talking about. The state of Florida is attempting to empower the head of their Department of Law Enforcement to designate groups such as foreign groups and domestic groups, both types of groups, as terrorist organizations. Interesting. Now, there are no real, clear, narrow definitions of what would constitute a terrorist group, according to the state of Florida. In fact, the definition they've given, in my opinion, is too broad. And as we know, too many people, particularly activists who are supportive of Palestinians or peace in the Middle East, have been erroneously labeled as terrorists. So there's a lot to get to here and a lot to talk about. But first, Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, there's a couple of outrageous things in this story. Number one, if you criticize Israel, they're gonna take your American rights away. It's a full lockdown in Florida. They're coming for American rights, constitutional rights, and they're gonna just unilaterally call you a terrorist if you dare criticize the people that are obviously bribing all of those politicians. Those bribes are legal. The Supreme Court says that Israel is allowed to buy any politician they want, and they do. They buy them in the bucketful. Now, ironically, there's a Republican revolt in Florida against some of these laws. We'll talk about that too, but they give the game away in one particular part of the bill that I want to focus on a little bit later, because if you weren't sure, oh my God, are they really looking for terrorists? No, by the end they clarified, no, we do all of this for beloved Israel because we've been ordered to do that. So Florida, you're about to lose all your rights because most of your politicians are bought by Israel.
So here's what you need to know. Prior to the bills, and I do say bills because, as any state legislature has, you have a state Senate and a state House. So there are bills in both the Senate and the House in Florida. But prior to that, it's important to keep in mind that Governor Ron DeSantis had really kind of taken the mantle of being able to erroneously label certain groups as terrorist organizations when nothing could be further from the truth. Now, following that, you have these accompanying bills that will further reinforce or bolster what DeSantis is doing here. So here's what you need to know. A House committee advanced HB 1471, which would allow the head of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, chosen by the governor, not an elected person, chosen by the governor, to designate groups as foreign or domestic terrorist organizations. Groups could be labeled as such if they engage in criminal violence, intimidate or coerce a civilian population. As we know, Zionists feel intimidated or coerced by pretty much any criticism of Israel, so keep that in mind, or influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion, the governor and cabinet would have to approve any designation. So in terms of safeguards, that's really the only potential safeguard I see from having this one individual abuse their power. Because if the individual decides, okay, I'm going to label this group a terrorist organization, you would still need a vote to take place in order to confirm that. Now, companion bills would ensure that any evidence or records about these decisions, right? How did you make the determination? What evidence do you have to make the determination that this organization is a so-called terrorist organization? Well, that evidence is meant to be kept secret according to how this legislation is written. And so the terrorist designation would require approval by the majority of the Senate cabinet in order to be enacted. So I just want to repeat that one more time. And while supporters of this effort are basically swearing up and down that no, this is not a violation of speech rights at all. That's not what we're trying to do here. What's really interesting is that there are a number of people who disagree, including some Republicans in the state legislature. Okay, so for instance, they're talking about forbidding the state from referring to the West Bank as the West Bank. Now, what do they actually want? Well, a Senate committee advanced SB 1106, which would direct state agencies to use the biblical terms Judea and Samaria instead of West Bank in official documents. Also, school libraries and instructional materials would also have to comply with that. I mean, Robert Maxwell is dead, so now you have the Florida legislature and Ron DeSantis to step in to do his dirty work for him. But there's more. The sponsor, Senator Ralph Musulo, who's a Republican, said renaming it was about teaching the truth that the area belongs to Israel. So these are just disgusting land thieves and colonizers, either that or they're saying things they don't actually believe. They're saying things that they've been paid to say, which I think is just as bad, if not worse. Critics have said that the bill seems targeted at college students who have protested Israel's genocide on Gaza. The bill would prohibit colleges and universities from giving funding or support to terrorist organizations, and a student who promotes one would be immediately expelled. I just want to note for our audio audience, that was an excerpt from a Miami Herald piece. They referred to it as a war in Gaza. I corrected them. It's a genocide. But nonetheless, Cenk, the bills would also ban anyone who affiliates with terrorist organizations from qualifying for school choice scholarships. And it's just clear to me that the whole point is to roll back rights for Americans on behalf of Zionists in America who are offended by speech they don't like, and more importantly, a foreign country, and that's the foreign country of Israel.
So I want to be clear, there are already laws against terrorism. There's tons and tons of laws against terrorism. So this is not needed in that sense. It's not like, oh my God, this is the one law against terrorism. If we take this away, terrorism will be legal. No, there's already infinite laws against it. You're not allowed to do any of those physical acts that are violent and in support of a literal terrorist organization, etc. So this law is new, and what it's doing is saying, as Anna explained, that if anyone feels intimidated by your speech because of they love Israel and you didn't kiss its ass, that's it, you're a terrorist. Now, wait a minute, you need due process, right? Nope, secret group, 5 people led by the governor, calling, just labeling people terrorists, terrorists, terrorists. Now, wait a minute. Okay, Christians can also feel intimidated. In fact, they could often feel intimidated by the bullies in Israel First movement, who's constantly like, you're all anti-Semites. You better pay Israel. You sick anti-Semitic Christians. You owe us, right? Now that feels like intimidation, right? We already, as a country, give out nearly $350 billion to Israel, but Israel says it's not enough and we're all anti-Semites and we owe them way more money. Otherwise, well, now in Florida, you might be a terrorist if you disagree. So you better give me your wallet, you terrorist. And I could get offended at any moment and call you a terrorist and then you're done. Now you say, well, but Cenk, maybe they will apply it evenly. I don't think a single actual human being that watching this thinks that. every single person knows that this is all to protect Israel, and in fact, they proved it, which I'll get to in a second again. But wait, they've already started applying these laws. Texas has a similar one. And who was the first group that they called a terrorist organization? CARE. So CARE is the top civil rights organization for Muslim Americans. They're like the equivalent of the ADL. So
let me give you their full name. So it's the Council on American and Islamic Relations. That's what CARE stands for. Yeah. They do advocacy work on behalf of American Muslims, and clearly, we live in a country where a giant influential group of people would rather, Muslims not have any rights. But anyway, continue, Cenk.
Yeah, so instantly they're like, oh, you're for Muslim civil rights? Terrorist! Based on what? Based on what are you talking about? CARE never says anything against Jewish Americans or any Americans. On the other hand, ADL is constantly talking about, oh, Muslims are the problem. And anyone who dares disagree with Israel is an anti-Semite whose life should be destroyed. They sound like a terrorist group. So are we gonna apply it to the ADL? No way, no way. No. This is so that any opponent of Israel can get locked up and have their freedom taken away. Well, what the hell happened to the First Amendment? The First Amendment says that we can say whatever we want. Not anymore. Now it has an asterisk. Unless you say something against Israel, in which case we will take away all your rights. But this is for the people of Florida. Really, how does this help the people of Florida? Now, they gave the game away, Anna, when they started talking about Judea and Samaria. First of all, the official government position of the federal US government, it is the West Bank. That is the name of it. 2.2 million 5.5 million people live in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Those are the occupied territories of Palestine. When you call it Judea and Samaria, that is much, much worse than saying from the river to the sea, which Netanyahu and Israeli supporters have also said. But what that means is we are going to remove the Palestinians from the West Bank. We are going to call it Judea and Samaria, which is our name for it, meaning we own it. We're going to slaughter those people. We're going to steal their land. And if you don't agree to that in Florida, if you're Muslim, Christian, atheist, it doesn't matter. If you don't agree to that slaughter and ethnic cleansing, and we're previewing it for you, you must say what Israel wants to call it. If you don't even call it what Israel wants to call it, and you don't agree to their ethnic cleansing, terrorist. Okay, yeah, all right, I got it. These guys are sellouts. Every single person that is pushing this bill forward works for Israel and hates America, hates our Constitution, wants to take our First Amendment rights away. You think they're only gonna apply to Muslims? Go ahead if you're a Christian, I dare you, criticize Israel after they pass this bill in Florida. They're gonna take everything you got. Already in Florida, if you say, hey, what Israel's doing is terrible, the genocide, they killed 20,000 kids, I'm pro-life. They killed 20,000 kids. If you said that, right? Terrorist! Okay, how dare you try to stick up for kids? Some people who love Israel feel intimidated. All right, can I call it the West Bank? That's what it's called. Terrorist! You have to call it Judea and Samaria, and you have to be in favor of Israel taking it all. And it literally says in there, it's Israel's. Currently, millions of Palestinians live there. So look, you want to do this in Israel? At this point, nothing would surprise me about the evil coming out of the Israeli government, the core evil, right? But you're gonna bring that here to America and you're gonna take away our rights and start calling innocent Americans terrorists because they don't agree to the imperial empire of Israel? Now, at some point, and I think this is the point, Americans are gonna rise up. We can't stand that our politicians are owned by Israel. We can't stand it. They all get funding from AIPAC and the Israeli lobby. Those are legalized bribes. They take those bribes and they sell out Americans. They sell out Republicans, they sell out right-wingers, they sell out Christians, they sell out left-wingers, they sell out all of us. And they're trying to force you to bow down to Israel. And now they're gonna put it in the law. And then they'll go, oh, well, it's illegal. We passed the law. We passed the law. Now you criticize Israel? I feel intimidated. Arrest all the terrorist Americans. How dare they oppose Israel? These are the sick things that are going on in Florida. If you're a Republican, you should vote on every one of these sons of bitches who are trying to take your rights away. I want to be clear, you don't have to vote for Democrats, it's not a trick. That's why there's primaries. go into your primaries, vote out DeSantis, vote out every Republican in Florida that works for Israel, because they're gonna betray you and they might even put you in prison if you dare to disagree with their donors.
In fact, one of the sponsors for the House version of this legislation is a former Democrat who is now a Republican, right? So look, the party labels don't matter. I think that there are members of both parties who are willing to do, Israel's dirty work here in the United States, even if it requires them to roll back the rights of American citizens. So this is not a partisan issue. This is really genuinely an issue about protecting our rights, Americans' rights to freedom of expression, freedom of speech. And one final thing that I'll just mention here is that this isn't just about pro-peace protesters or American Muslims. This is also something that will very likely harm workers' unions. Now, why do I say that? Because the head of a workers' union is raising alarm here. So Rich Templin, political director for the Florida AFL-CIO, told senators last week that union members were concerned about their ability to go on strike under the Senate version of the bill, and that's SB 1632. He says, quote, when they strike, they are trying to intimidate. That's the goal, to make change. And that's exactly right. I mean, what does Florida consider criminal intimidation in regard to how this legislation will be carried out, right? Because you're intimidating an industry if the workers strike and threaten the profitability of these companies, right? So is that considered terrorism? I have no doubt that it will be used by bad actors. This type of law will be used by bad actors in order to shut down, freedom of expression, whether it be labor unions, organizations and advocacy groups who want peace in the Middle East and don't want Israel to basically carry out mass slaughter campaigns. It's gonna be used selectively against people who are fighting for what they believe in and doing so in a legal way.
Yeah. And so guys, there's two other things here that are important. To Anna's point, this bill started as, if you criticize any of my donors, I'm gonna put you in prison and call you a terrorist. So if you criticize corporations, they say, well, that's it. You're trying to intimidate poor beloved corporations that have coincidentally given me millions of dollars in donations, right? And so that would also apply to all Florida workers. If you're an employee in Florida at all, you're in a world of trouble if you try to intimidate your poor CEO or the executives of your company in their interpretation of it. So now there are portions of the bill that got a lot of pushback because of that, because you couldn't criticize X, Y, or Z. But the one part that of course stays completely unchanged is, all right, maybe we'll let you criticize agricultural companies, and maybe we'll let you, criticize your workplace if you're going on. Maybe we're debating, right? And a lot of pushback from Republicans, etc. But Israel's untouchable. If you dare criticize them, no way, you're a terrorist. Now I said, look guys, again, it's all factual. So do they mention any other country? Like there could be terrorism that's related to Saudi Arabia or Thailand, I don't know, anywhere, right? Nope, only Israel. Has it been applied to anything other than Israel? Nope, only Israel, And not only do they then say you have to say the terminology, you are forced to say the things that Israelis want you to say. Not only are we taking your speech rights away, but we're making you say Judea and Samaria, and if you don't, you're a terrorist. But on top of all of that, as Anna told you earlier, now they're going to change the textbooks of your kids, and they're going to teach them lies. They're gonna teach them Israeli propaganda. And they're just doing it out in open. They're like, yes, well, okay, now there's a new law and the Israelis will control our textbooks and they'll write whatever fantasy they want. And if you disagree, you're a terrorist, okay? Yeah. So every politician that is pushing this bill is a traitor to America. They're trying to destroy our Constitution on behalf of their donors. And yes, that included corporations. And yes, it includes Israel. That's how our government works now. The Supreme Court legalized bribery. So they are all bribed. None of them care about us. They have great disdain for the American people. The only thing they care about is the people who bribe them, which is the donor class. And now they're saying, if you oppose the donor class, we're gonna call you a terrorist and take away all your rights.
All right, when we come back from the break, we'll talk about how Jeffrey Epstein was looking to scientific advancements to potentially clone himself or live even longer. We'll be right back.
All right, let's go to YouTube members first. Bach says, not gonna lie, I was missing Cenk yelling a bit this week. You're welcome. Now, that law and a couple other stories in the show, it's like a full Israel takeover. They're going now, they're like, that's it, just lock it down. We already bought all the politicians. Democrats, they're the biggest weaklings in the country. We bought them cheap, they're such losers. Easy to buy Democrats. Republicans, all they care about is money. We bought them for Israel. Now you're all gonna have to suffer under Israeli rule. Now you'll know what it's like to be a Palestinian. Israelis are saying to all of us, I'm so sick of their oppression and their intimidation. Can I use that law to declare pro-Israel people terrorists? Oh no, you can't do that. They're beloved Israeli lovers. You can't, they're the most precious people on earth. Oh yeah, you guys, you don't like Israel? Put them in jail, take away their rights. How dare they oppose Israel, those terrorists. That's what Ron DeSantis, that sellout bitch, is doing in Florida right now. Did Netanyahu go down to Florida? Did DeSantis take care of him personally? Because that's what they're gonna do. Eventually they're gonna put it on TV. Netanyahu's gonna come on and go, okay, now DeSantis, Trump, Biden, all of you on your knees. Burn the Constitution in front of me and then pleasure me. And then they're gonna go, oh no, if you object, you're an anti-Semite. Little Taco Dragon says, be completely honest, Cenk and Anna, like always, will we ever be free from an Israeli state? Because I don't think so. Well, right now, I mean, we're under complete occupation. So we have to rebel politically, rhetorically, and there's a head-on collision coming because the rebellion is real. The right wing has joined the rebellion, and the establishment hasn't moved an inch. I was just in Washington. They all work for Israel. They love Israel. They're like, yes, the money from Israel. They're the worst people on earth. Almost every member of Congress is corrupt. Almost every member of Congress works for another government, the Israeli government. So yeah, there's a head-on collision coming. Kevin Shea says, what do we expect from Florida anyway? This is a state that had the can't say gay law. Mark, that's true. Marco Antonio P said Florida is an Israeli colony. Jeffrey Dottie 2782 says, I'm glad I'm out of Florida alive. BS 1954 in our member section on TYT.com says, Cenk, I echo your rage with Israel, and I'm so proud of you. You were so excited, but you kept it within reason. CB1 says, I guess we should just call Earth planet Israel. Wang Jun says, in other words, if passed, Israel basically annexed Florida. Boomer Dragon Cat says, Anna, I caught your interview on I've Had It podcast. I swear you and Jen Wesh could be sisters. Enjoyed it so much. TYT.com/press to catch that. Just Jim writes in, the House yesterday passed the more egregious Voting Rights Act. TYT's best buddy, Massey, also voted for it. Massey's a one-issue Trojan horse who's infiltrated populist confines. And yes, the populace fell for it. A Trojan horse will lure you in with one goal, your destruction. The House yesterday passed the more egregious Voting Rights Act. TYT's best buddy, Massey, also voted for it. Yeah, I'm done with that. Hey, listen, if you're one of these folks who thinks like, I cannot understand simple concepts. I agree with Massey on this, and I don't agree with him on the Voting Rights Act. And you think, oh, you agree with him on one issue. He agrees with us. Use your mind. All right, back on TYT. Cenk, Anna, Angel D. Valentin, CD Norstag, thank you. Dog Dad, thank you for gifting a membership on YouTube. Michelle Moody, thank you for gifting 5. You guys are amazing. I'm gonna say one last thing to Just Jim, who wrote in, who's a member on our website, tyt.com. Brother, I don't know how many times I gotta say this. When one person, not that we agree with Tom Massey comes and agrees with us on anti-war, on Epstein files, on Israel. What do you want me to do? Oh, well, okay, we don't agree with Massey on other things. How many times have I told you we don't agree with Massey on other things? He votes with the Republicans 91% of the time. Nobody told you to vote for Massey. What do you want me to do? Say, no, I reject Massey's help. I don't want his help at all. You know what? My feelings are more important than Israel's occupation of America or Gaza. It's more important than the genocide. So I'm gonna reject Massey's help. I'm gonna reject Tucker Carlson's help because I am pure. Unless someone agrees with me 200%, I cancel them. Okay, congratulations, Jim. Go ahead and cancel them. And say, oh, we're never gonna work with anyone who's trying to end a genocide, who's trying to end the occupation of America because we disagree with them on other things. How many times you guys, like, I hope that 99% of you understand this super simple concept. I know there's a lot of super dumb left-wing hosts who keep telling you otherwise, but because someone agrees with you, like for example on paid family leave, that doesn't mean you agree on everything. It doesn't mean you love that person. It doesn't mean that you have to vote for that person. It doesn't mean they're your best friend. It means they came over to your side to say yes to something. The correct answer is, great, let's work on that and I'll fight you on other things. Why is that so hard to understand? Why is this so hard? And I'll tell you why the left-wing hosts say it. Not all of them, but yes, there's some. And if you think there aren't, you're being disingenuous. They say those things because they want to seem like they're the most pure. I rejected Thomas Massey. I rejected Tucker Carlson's help on Israel. Yeah, so what? More Palestinians will be murdered because we didn't join in with the right wing to fight on that one issue together. But I am morally pure, left-wing host.
Okay, Cenk, we have 2 hours. We have 2 hours. 2 hours to do a show that we literally spent our entire day researching and working on. So I would appreciate if we just move on, please. Okay, we are not anyone's mother or father in the audience. Okay, you guys have the right to watch whatever you want to watch, vote for whatever you want to vote for. I don't have to explain myself to anybody. You don't have to explain yourselves to me. Let's move on. Let's get to the next story. All right. Jeffrey Epstein apparently had quite a bit of interest in biohacking the human genome, and that's according to the recent Epstein files that were released by the DOJ. So he pursued individuals from the intelligence community to help him do it, which shouldn't be surprising since he was an asset for Mossad. And Epstein seemingly wanted to either clone himself, live forever, or potentially both, because we don't have enough horrible people on this planet. But nonetheless, curious what you think in your initial thoughts, Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, so I thought the places that they financed here were also interesting, so keep an eye out for that. And these folks were sick. And so as you're hearing Anna tell you the whole story, remember the US government knew all of this and never tried to stop any of it.
So this is yet another example of the excellent reporting that you can see over at Dropsite News. This particular piece was published by Ryan Grimm, Murtaza Hussain, and Emily Jasinski. And here's Ryan Grimm kind of giving us a rundown of what Epstein was up to as it pertains to biohacking.
He talks about wanting to have cloned himself.
Who among us?
Who among us? And to do DNA experiments and so the headline of the article refers to how he wanted to turn he built his New Mexico ranch, he said, to be this Manhattan Project for basically kind of hacking the genome. So he wanted to connect NSA hackers,
yes,
to biology. That's why I said in the last segment that this biotech research thing actually tracks. Like this is the kind of thing that he was into. And he's arguing that once you get into the world of code, now you're talking about math. And you actually can try to, maybe somebody can answer some of these questions, that maybe you can get in there and manipulate DNA and reshape humanity.
Now, Epstein was reaching out to intelligence officials while he was working on this project. So here is Emily kind of giving us a little more on that. Let's take a look.
I was searching the DOJ library for NSA. I was just typing in all the like 3-letter agencies. And when I got to NSA, you see the former White House counsel, Kathy Rumler, is talking, like there's a calendar invite for Kathy, NSA, signal intelligence. There's some like fairly open conversation that seems to imply Epstein is aware she's NSA or CIA affiliated. She brags to him about getting a CIA award from John Brennan. And so he's moving in intelligence circles. There's a former CBS News producer named Dan Dubno in these emails who Epstein meets in, I think they formally meet in 2009, or their relationship begins in 2009. You can see it in the emails. And Epstein asks him to connect him to NSA codebreakers and Israeli hackers. And Dubno offers that up on a silver platter.
Oh, wow. Someone who worked over at CBS News was helping Jeffrey Epstein out with connections to intelligence so he can inquire about biohacking. Fascinating. Now, there are some more details here. Now, if you might be asking yourself, okay, to what end? Like, what exactly was Jeffrey Epstein's goal? And look, it is hard to say for sure. So there's a bit of speculation here. However, here's the little that we do know for sure. So in 2019, Epstein revealed the following in his conversations or email exchanges with Steve Bannon. He had just purchased a ranch in New Mexico. It was intended to serve as the site for the next so-called Manhattan Project, referencing the base where nuclear weapons were developed during World War II. And then the goal was to assemble or get together a group of leading scientists at this ranch. Now, here's what Epstein said to Bannon. In our world, the physical world, there were things that were just unexplainable. I wanted to see if we could build tools so others smarter than me could help investigate it. So with that in mind, let's rewind to the year 2006. That was the year when Epstein was set to meet with the former head of, I think, YouTube. I don't know how to say her name correctly. You should know, Cenk. But anyway, so Anne Wojcicki. There we go. Okay, so founder of 23andMe. So Ghislaine Maxwell told Epstein ahead of the meeting, be very nice to her, not stupid. She is interested in mapping DNA, etc. She is key. Around that same time, Epstein was in touch with Harvard geneticists George Church and Gary Ruvkun. Okay, so Ruvkun sought Epstein's support for genomics research to elucidate pleasure signals in the brain, which is super creepy. So at that point, you have Ruvkun writing back to Stephen Koslin, later Harvard's social science dean, quote, "Let me know if this subject is too strange for our patron." The correspondence was forwarded to Epstein, who wrote back, "The patron has no boundaries." Well, that's definitely true. Okay, so as for Church, in 2011, Epstein funded his CRISPR gene editing research. And so if you're unfamiliar with that, it's meant to like engineer like perfect humans, right? So you alter DNA to do away with things that make people, characteristics that are considered undesirable in people, right? You know, the scientific world and the people behind it want to make us believe that this is all about like rooting out like illnesses and things like that. But I think it goes further than that. Nonetheless, Epstein seemed to be interested in extending his lifespan. And he also suggested on at least one occasion that he was interested in cloning himself. I'm gonna pause for 1 second and just say, the people who are into this kind of stuff are so self-absorbed, it like blows my mind. Like I die when I die. Like, I don't want to live longer than I need to. And more importantly, why do I want another version of myself? Like, why would I want to clone myself? I don't think I'm that great. I don't need another version of myself walking this planet. There can only be one. But anyway, let's continue. In 2014, a colleague of Church's sent Epstein a $193,400 invoice for a package deal to mutate his adult stem cells to increase longevity. Later that year, Epstein tried to arrange a meeting between Church and Bill Gates to discuss anti-aging and genetic fabrication. Epstein believed that intelligence officials were definitely key to this type of research. As early as December 2009, Epstein reached out to Daniel Dubno, a CBS News producer who previously worked with DARPA and the Department of Homeland Security, to find the top hacker codebreaker NSA type to assist in analysis of proteins. And you heard the folks over at Drop Site News talk about that a little bit in the video that we showed you earlier. And so the following email is from 2012. It was written by Epstein. The recipient's name is unfortunately redacted, but here's what Epstein wrote in the email. My biology gurus at Harvard all agree that the signal intelligence used by the various agencies could be put to work on breaking the DNA code or protein signal problems. Breaking foreign codes is the expertise of the US and NSA. Epstein prompted the recipient to help him recruit code breakers from the various intelligence agencies. Quote, it would be great to know which agency button to push. Cenk.
Yeah, so he's constantly working with intelligence agencies. He knows what the intelligence agencies are up to. Did I know that information about the intelligence agencies? No, not until I read it in one of Epstein's emails. But he seems to be perfectly aware. There was one country mentioned so far. Was it Portugal? Was it Kazakhstan? No, Israel again. Really weird. So, by the way, the person that Anna mentioned, Ann Wojcicki, is of course the sister of the deceased Susan Wojcicki, who was the CEO of YouTube. Now, look, Anna, if it was just him, just a rando person looking into a genome project, and that wouldn't be that, to me, that wouldn't be that big a deal, right? And what can we do about cloning? I'm sure there are a lot of people involved that feel the same way, right? We see it in the context of the Peter Thiels and the Silicon Valley bros who are constantly trying to stay alive and replace their blood and do all these weirdo things in the name of eugenics. And obviously eugenics does not have a great past given what they did with it in Germany as that surveillance state and that terror state began. So yeah, it's worrisome. Plus, some of the research goes through MIT, and apparently the crypto business was also started by research at MIT. And the guy who started cryptocurrency in the first place is anonymous. Then I thought for a second, Anna, wait, how do we even know that it's a person? How do we know that it's not a government that started cryptocurrency so they could move illicit money without being tracked? And hey, look, there's Epstein right in the middle of the MIT division that started cryptocurrency, which he was funding. And now he goes to that same MIT division for the Genome Project. He goes and talks to Harvard for it. So this guy is one of the most connected people on earth. He knows what's going on in the intelligence agencies, constantly serving Israel and funding all of these projects. And our government knows all about it and never tells you a single word about it. So yeah, there are people who are running this country that have compromised our government, and our press, other than Drop Site News and us and a couple other shows, are like, yeah, that's great, it's wonderful. Yeah, Epstein's friends should run everything. Yeah.
Yeah, look, the only thing I want to say about this is I find it so fascinating that the Peter Thiels of the world look at the human population as totally disposable. In fact, looks at the human population with such hostility. It's just so evil. Like, I see it as evil. They want to replace humans with AI. They're very overt about that. But at the same time, they're real interested in biohacking. So humans like them can either be cloned or live for a long period of time, potentially forever. Like, I don't know how possible that even is. It's just the fact that they have an interest in that I find fascinating. So they really do see themselves as different from the rest of the human race, like exceptional, more important. Everyone else is disposable. I think it says a lot about them. So you want to talk about the Antichrist? I would look in the mirror.
Yeah, and
anyway.
I want you guys to understand too that like Peter Thiel, for example, and some of the others. Now, he's not involved in this story, but based on other stories, the guys in Silicon Valley, they're not in any one religion. They do all support Israel, and I probably some for loyalty reasons, ethnic issues, etc. But some for financial reasons, some for because they're involved in secret projects together. So the issue isn't ever religion. But yes, this incredible loyalty to Israel throughout all of these. But and those super wealthy guys in Silicon Valley, do they think that they're better than the rest of us? 100%. The guys trying to clone themselves think they're God's gift to humanity. We're just in the way. We're all meddlesome, but it's their planet.
All right, when we come back from the break, we will hear from the Epstein survivors who were there for the Pam Bondi hearing that took place before the House Judiciary Committee. What did they think? Did they feel that anything was accomplished? And more importantly, how do they feel that they're being treated by our Attorney General, the top law enforcement official in the country? Come right back and we'll show you.
All right, back on TYT. I'll do the best I can here. Let's go to Super Chat. Kololo writes, and then workers should fire back about that Florida law and say your meager salaries intimidate us, your work conditions intimidate us. And then theoretically that would trigger the terrorism charge against the executives of that company. Well, that law is such garbage. And you think they'll ever use it to help the average guy in Florida? Never. In fact, that law will never be used other than to help Israel when it's finally passed. And of course it'll pass because Israel buys all of our politicians, or almost all of them. So I guarantee you that if you tracked it, you'll see that the Israeli lobby gave almost all those politicians of Florida money, and they own them, and so they say, oh yeah, of course we'll betray America for you. Of course, where's the money, okay? Konstantin Kavira says Gallup after 88 years will stop polling approval ratings of politicians. This act will clearly help the country to better pacify dear leaders' feelings. I think it's partly about Trump, and you're making a good point there. But it's also partly everyone despises all politicians now, and the people in power don't want you to know that. They're like, oh no, protect the beloved crook, corrupt, sellout politicians. No, oh no, you don't want to know how unpopular they are. Yeah, they're super unpopular because they're pieces of crap who work for a different country and they work for different corporations and not us. And their job is to oppress us, and sometimes they obliterate us on behalf of their donors. Subliminal Sapper says, Cenk, it's not hard to understand. Some would rather own the right than win on policy. It's sad, but nothing exists without a reflection. Yeah, look, all right, I've already said a lot, but some folks on our side have convinced their audience that the left-wing position is hate, and that hatred is awesome, and you should hate your fellow Americans. And if anyone ever voted for Trump, you should hate them forever. And it doesn't even matter if they agree with you now. It doesn't matter if they agree with you on important issues or all issues. It doesn't matter. You have to focus on the hate. You must hate the other side. That's what they tell you. If you like that, and that's the thing that you know, I get it. It's emotional release, etc. Okay, then God bless. Go over to those shows. We're saying that hate cannot drive out hate. That at some point we've got to realize that we're all citizens here. And yes, we've all been misled. We've all been misled. You think we have been misled by the Democrats? So we're all gonna hate each other forever and ever because we got misled at some point by dirty politicians and the worst people on earth, all the people who work in national media whose job is to lie to you, to divide you, and you're gonna help them with that division instead of taking your country back? If you are, great. There's right-wing shows and left-wing shows that love that hatred. And by the way, does that help Israel and all the corporate donors? Of course, because then you're fighting each other instead of them. They love that. They can't get enough of those radical left shows and the radical right shows. Corporations in Israel love those shows. Keep everybody divided. Keep the hate going. Yes, you idiots, way to fall into our trap. But here's a little money from YouTube or whatever, social media. And oh, congratulations, oh, you got a little bit more money. Drive the hatred. Okay, yeah, so yeah, they're bad people. Anyway, the great Mandini writes in, the Salt Queen keeping our rage lord on task. Love you guys. With a gal says, I'm so tired of my country being owned by everyone but the people. You got that right. All right, a lot more where that came from. Back on TYT, Cenk, Anna, Andrea, Eamon, B1K, Georgia, Bayless, 74th Street. You guys are amazing. Thank you for joining. It makes a big difference. Yes, there are forces against us for sure. And so we need your membership and we appreciate it. With it, Gal, thank you for gifting 5 memberships on YouTube. Well, it'd be amazing to keep an honest, independent show alive. God knows that the rest of the media doesn't want it. All right, Anna.
All right, let's get to our next story.
Show me your hands if you were satisfied with what you heard from the Attorney General today. Nobody. Show of hands if you are frustrated with what you heard.
Very much so. There was no integrity in that room today. It seemed like, as far when it came to Epstein and Maxwell.
She had 3 opportunities to address survivors. We stood up, and all she had to do was turn around, and she could not even turn around and face us.
I said in my speech today, we're not here for theatrics. And she's like, oh, the theater. And I'm like, yes, you're the main character in this.
The circus act.
Yes.
Yeah. She was a comedian today.
Well said. Yes.
Everyone was laughing at her.
NBC News sat down and interviewed several of the Epstein survivors that can be seen at the House Judiciary hearing involving our Attorney General Pam Bondi. It was a complete and utter circus, something that I covered in depth yesterday. However, now we're hearing from the actual Epstein survivors, and they've got a lot to say. I highly recommend watching the full discussion. We are going to show you some highlights, but I don't even think that does it justice. So if you have the time, please check out the full video of it, which we'll link to in the description box. But before we get to the highlights, Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, just curious about what the reaction is. Obviously, Pam Bondi's a monster, but Trump told her to do that. And the Republicans are upset that they're not doing this cover up well. So let's hear from the women and then I'll weigh in more.
All right, so let's actually begin with how these survivors felt about Bondi's treatment of them during this hearing.
It is such a simple act to turn around and say, I apologize for the terrible job our DOJ did in releasing, that is something that is completely inappropriate. To take responsibility for that, for the damage they did to us, not to state it as, yes, we understand damage was done. No, to us. It was such a simple thing. And it's something we teach children, to take accountability, to recognize when you've made a mistake and you just apologize for it. So there wasn't even an adult in the room that could apologize for the damage done to children and girls. So there's the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein, and then there's the crimes of the cover-up. And she's part of that continuing cover-up. So she didn't apologize for that.
So if you didn't catch our coverage of the hearing or you didn't watch the hearing for yourself, the moment that she's talking about is what we're about to show you. It was an exchange between Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal and Attorney General Pam Bondi. Take a look.
Attorney General Bondi, you apologized to the survivors in your opening statement for what they went through at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. Will you turn to them now and apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information?
Congresswoman, you sat before Merrick Garland sat in this chair twice.
Attorney General Bondi,
no, can I finish my answer?
No, I'm going to reclaim my time.
I don't know why Bondi had such a difficult time turning around and just apologizing about the fact that the identities of the survivors who did not want to be identified were not redacted in the release of the latest tranche of files. Like, it doesn't make you a bad person to take ownership of a mistake or something you did wrong. But the question here, Cenk, is, I don't know, was it a mistake or was this an act of intimidation?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. And I think she's not apologizing because it wasn't a mistake. And so what has our government done the entire time for decades now? Protected the predators and exposed the girls to harm. They knew that they were raping girls the entire time. They never stopped them. So now they go, oh, whoops, we released the names of the victims, but not the perpetrators. That one, they had to go in, the congressmen like Ro Khanna, Tom Massey, et cetera, and actually get those names that were redacted because the predators are always protected. So we've gone over it a million times. My theory on it is that Pam Bondi, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, both parties can't ever say who did it, can't ever bring them to justice, won't ever protect those women or future girls because it was an intelligence agency and it was obviously Israel. And Israel is more powerful than the American government. Israel is more powerful than any force in America. So that is why Pam Bondi humiliated herself yesterday because these politicians have no choice. They must follow Israel's orders.
I mean, they don't have to unless there's something that Israel is either blackmailing them with or, I don't know. I mean, look, there are some people who are so morally corrupt that like you can pay them to do anything, including throw these survivors under the bus as they have been for very, very long. But I want to pivot over to, I think, probably the most important part of this discussion, which has to do with the distrust that these women feel toward our institutions. Because I keep seeing, it's really interesting. This tends to happen with people who want to provide cover for the bad behavior of the Trump administration right now, because they want to make it partisan, but this really isn't partisan. And what they always say is, well, why don't they just name names? Why don't they just name names? Why don't they name names? Okay, so I get that you guys, people who make that argument think that it's like not a big deal. Yeah, just name their names. We're talking about literal billionaires who had already victimized them, okay, raped them, allegedly. I have to say allegedly for legal purposes. But these are people who have unlimited resources and can ruin these women's lives in a situation in which our law enforcement agencies, our governmental institutions are not protecting them. Do you guys understand how scary that is? So just keep that in mind as we go to the next clip, because you're about to hear some of their thoughts on said government agencies.
I was a little embarrassed to see that she couldn't say sorry to us, because she sat there in the beginning, she said sorry for what Jeffrey Epstein did to us, but yet she couldn't apologize what she did to us, what her department did to us, right? It's like you had one job was to redact our names. to respect our privacy, but yet you carefully took the time to redact all these powerful, rich men. I think we all realize now, oh, you guys really wanted to silence us. And you thought that you could scare us by putting our names out there. And to be honest with you, we've been through worse.
So just think about that, right? I mean, you have the DOJ failing in protecting their identities, failing to redact their names. And then you have people who are easily gullible and swayed by partisans in this country who want to provide cover for the Trump administration. So they argue, well, why don't the women just name names? Okay, what happens after that? So they name names. These rich and powerful, super influential men, again, have unlimited resources to go after them. And then what are we expecting here? For the DOJ to come in and prosecute or investigate these men? We already have names of men who should be investigated right now. Leon Black, former financier of Apollo Management Group, he's one of them. Why isn't he being investigated? So now we turn to the next video, because the lies from our government agencies have been going on, for a very long time when it comes to this particular scandal. And all the revelations we've learned about hasn't seemed to move the DOJ in wanting to open up investigations. So let's hear from the women in this next clip about that issue.
She says there are pending investigations.
Who, what, where, why, when. Yeah, we don't have any information, and I would think that they would come to us to get that information.
Yeah, we still haven't talked yet. We haven't even.
Nobody's talked to the DOJ.
Nobody's talked to any of us.
Show of hands, has anybody had any communication with the DOJ over the course of the last, let's say, 6 months? Do you want to have that communication?
Yes. We've all asked for it.
Does it mean we feel safe?
Yeah.
Does it mean that we think she's gonna listen? No, but we deserve the chance as citizens of this country.
She also said, she was talking about anybody can go to the FBI. Any survivor right now can go to the FBI. And then we saw 302s that are full pages of black that even our congressional leaders can't get access to. So we've gone to the FBI. We've done the legwork. We've done everything we know how to do.
So my question is, if they just decide to name names and have this play out through the court of public opinion, what does that really do for them? All it really does for them, in lieu of a law enforcement agency that would actually do its job but doesn't do its job, all that it would open them up to is endless litigation from incredibly rich and powerful men who can crush them, and they know that. And Cenk, this is how I feel about a lot of different things, right? Our government, obviously, if there's a war between what's in the American people's interest or in Israel's interest, we've seen that our lawmakers, both on a state and federal level, are willing to throw us under the bus, willing to throw our constitutional rights under the bus on behalf of Israel's best interests, right?
Yeah.
And so in this case with the Epstein files, why would we think any differently? All we've seen from the federal government is one cover up after another, after another, after another.
It's definitely to protect Israel. But let's break it down one by one. First of all, on the naming the women and trying to goad them into saying the names of the guys, Alan Dershowitz says in every appearance he makes, I want him to name the names. We're gonna sue them. We're gonna sue them. The real victims are the people who are being accused, not the women, okay? A lot of them are fake, and we're gonna sue them, right? So Dershowitz, he said it on a show that he was on with Anna. And so that's their bullying and intimidating. Alan Dershowitz has represented the IDF before. He works for Israel. He represented Epstein. He's one of the worst people in America. He is obviously loyal to Israel and only Israel. And his job is to try to legally character assassinate these women and rob them of all their money, because they haven't robbed them of enough already. They haven't done enough damage to these women, so Israel's looking to do more. So why is it Dershowitz? Why isn't it like some random, non-Israel connected lawyer? Oh, that's so weird. It's Israel again, huh? Leon Black, also a huge supporter of Israel. Why isn't he arrested? He has some of the worst allegations in the documents about biting a 16-year-old's genitalia, smashing her into a massage table, ripping her clothes off. By the way, that same lady, as we covered earlier, she was 16 at the time, she had a baby and they took the baby from her. Nobody knows what happened to the baby. So is the Justice Department gonna look into what happened to the baby? Did the Justice Department do any investigations to try to actually prosecute these guys? Well, it doesn't look like it, because anytime you talk to the survivors, they say they never even come and talk to us. They don't ask us, they don't investigate, they don't do anything. All they've ever done so far is out the survivors so that creeps like Alan Dershowitz can target them legally, and protected the predators. So is there an investigation of Leon Black? He paid $158 million to Epstein. That seems like a very, very large, payment. He said for financial advice. He's one of the top financial experts in the world. No, it looks like that was a blackmail payment, or maybe it was a payment because he's the top spy for Israel in America. Which brings me to Les Wexner. I don't know, but I'm asking that question. If you think I shouldn't ask that question, you probably work for Israel. So now we go to Les Wexner. Apparently, it turns out the FBI named him as a co-conspirator. So why was there no investigation of Les Wexner? Why did Les Wexner give all of his fortune to Jeffrey Epstein to run? Well, I thought in the beginning that it was blackmail, that he got Leon Black and Les Wexner doing terrible things, and that's how he got their money, right? But no, as you see in the emails, that Wexner is great friends with Epstein and allies with him. So obviously not blackmail. Now, what's the only thing that can get Les Wexner to turn over his entire fortune to a scammer like Epstein, who he knows to be a scammer, because he's his co-conspirator. He knows all the things that are going on. If Motherland Israel asked him, yes, you have to give it, and that's our guy in America. He organizes everything for us. You let him handle your fortune, and we go and get blackmail. There's video cameras in every room. It was in the tissue boxes. Is our government telling us that there was video cameras in every room, including the bathrooms, but they didn't tape anything? Now, you see what I'm saying? The absurdity is over the top. Of course they tape things. Where are the tapes? Have you ever done an investigation of any of this? And the point, guys, is if they've never investigated any of this stuff to try to put away these serial pedophiles and rapists, there's obviously a reason why. And the only thing that can get law enforcement from not investigating those is if an intelligence agency comes to them and says, you are to not investigate this. So the CIA is definitely complicit. The government is compromised. I don't think the CIA works for us. But all of this in every email, you'll read the drop site news stories. Every single time Epstein and his allies are looking to help only one country, and it is not America, it is Israel.
All right, when we come back for the second hour, there is a breaking news story from the Wall Street Journal about that whistleblower complaint that Tulsi Gabbard, the DNI person, was hiding from the appropriate people from looking at it. So we've got an update on that, and it's pretty explosive. It involves Kushner. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back.
Hey, Andrew, what's up?
Hey, Cenk, you ready to make the switch?
Yeah, I guess.
I promise it's easy, universal, basic, and you get income.
Yeah, you keep saying that. But you sure I'm gonna have coverage?
Of course you will. You think I would have bad service? I'm Andrew Yang. Of course I have good service.
All right, let's try it. But I'm so bad at tech. So, wait. Should I do this thing of the hashtag business? Andrew, you're still on, right?
Yep.
Oh, I see it. No, wait, I don't see. Oh, yeah, I do see it. Here we go.
I actually did not realize that you'd be searching in real time, but I love it.
How much do people actually normally say?
Yeah, the average American is gonna save between $500 and $1,000 a year on Noble.
Yeah, no, you know what I'm gonna do, Andrew? Are you ready to become a Noble member? The two buttons are do it and go back. There's no going back, we're doing it.
We're doing it.
Here we go, Noble Mobile.
Oh my gosh, I just called you and are you now on Noble and not Verizon?
Why didn't you tell me it was gonna be super easy?
I know, man. Now you just stay away from your phone and watch the money roll in.
I can do that, here you go, phone, yeah.
Cenk, you still there?
Andrew? Oh, well, at least I got Noble Mobile.
It was really just one take. The whole thing is wild.
It's in my shoe. It's in my shoes. Hi, I'm Brett Ehrlich with breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. This is breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. Hi, Brett Ehrlich here. According to EPA head Scott Pruitt, climate change is not happening. He cited a meme on Facebook he saw. When pressed to back up this source, he said it must be accurate because the watermark said it was made by a scientist. So, your move, Truth.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to big pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT, TYT. The place is like 95% TYT on.
Favorite channel, we're getting that message out.
Cenk and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
All the people who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning, they seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing.
You wouldn't be high by any chance, would you?
Back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Before we go on the rest of the show, real quick note here that could save you a lot of time and energy. So our sponsor is Plaude AI, and what it is a little small device that you put on your phone, and what it does is it allows you to concentrate on the conversation you're having. So we could use that in interviews, but to me, it's the most helpful in business meetings, because then you don't have to worry about taking notes and losing track of things. You just ask afterwards anything that you need from it. Hey, what did he say were the terms of that particular part of the deal? What's the summary of it? It's so helpful. So it saved me hours and hours every week. So check it out at plaude.ai/TYT. That's plaude.ai/TYT. Super helpful in all your meetings. All right, Anna, what's next?
Well, we have a breaking news story from the Wall Street Journal, and I think this is an important story. It looks to be something that is developing into potentially a massive scandal. So I want to give you the update, although I wish we had even more information because this seems very juicy, so buckle up. If you all recall, we had covered a story involving Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and how she had essentially kept a whistleblower complaint from someone who works in intelligence from Congress. Now, Congress was supposed to be privy to this whistleblower complaint 8 months ago when it was filed, but Tulsi Gabbard instead decided to meet with Susie Wiles, who of course is Trump's chief of staff, and after that meeting decided to keep that whistleblower complaint locked up for 8 months. And it wasn't until recently that we even found out that a whistleblower complaint existed. It does have to do with Tulsi Gabbard. However, we now have a little more clarity on who else it is about, okay? So the whistleblower complaint apparently has to do with 2 foreign nationals who were engaging in a conversation, and through the course of that conversation, were discussing Jared Kushner. As the Wall Street Journal reports, at least part of that conversation had to do with Kushner and Iran. Now, we don't know the identities of the foreign nationals. We also do not know where these foreign nationals are from, which nation states they're from. And we also don't know the details of the conversation. Like, we know that they were talking about Jared Kushner. In fact, the fact that they were talking about Jared Kushner is the reason why Tulsi Gabbard allegedly decided to meet with Susie Wiles before hiding the whistleblower complaint from Congress, allegedly. But we know Iran is involved, Kushner is involved. We have 2 foreign nationals, but we don't know the full details about what they were discussing or the nature of the discussion. Were they 2 foreign nationals who were being very critical of how Kushner is handling the situation in the Middle East? Was it 2 foreign nationals who were discussing Kushner profiting off of his volunteer role in the Trump administration and how he is using these conflicts abroad for his own financial purposes? I have no idea. You have no idea. No one knows, because we have not been made privy to the details of that whistleblower complaint. But after hiding it from Congress for 8 months, Tulsi Gabbard finally provided a heavily redacted version, and now members of Congress are just outraged by it, and they feel that there should be investigations into this, and that they should have a little more clarity on what was redacted and why it was redacted. But Cenk, before I give you more details, what do you think?
Yeah, I want to give one detail here. Towards the end of the Wall Street Journal story, they say a second allegation in the complaint alleges that the NSA's General Counsel's office failed to report a potential crime to the Justice Department that was raised by the content of the intercepted conversation, and did so for political purposes. So pretty serious. There's a crime involved here, and apparently it's about Jared Kushner. And so Tulsi Gabbard looks like, that we say alleged, sure, alleged, but it looks like she most certainly hit it. I mean, why did she? She did. Yeah, there's pretty much no question she hit it. What did Jared Kushner do? There's plenty of questions about that. We don't know, it's redacted. But I do have a educated guess on it. So let me know when you want me to tell you that, Anna.
No, go ahead, I'm ready to hear it.
Yeah. So look, guys, there's reporting earlier in the first term of the Trump administration that Jared Kushner worked with Mohammed bin Salman, and that if you remember, his security clearance was taken away, and then that became a bit of a scandal. And why is he, our envoy to the Middle East and negotiating with the Arab states and Israel and all this stuff when he didn't even have security clearance? And at the time, the story was, and this is allegations, we don't know for sure, that Kushner had told Mohammed bin Salman, our allies in the Saudi government and in the Saudi royalty, and that Salman then rounded them up and basically used that as leverage against them. But some were killed, some were kidnapped, and then returned once Salman had taken enough power and money from them. So if he sold out our spies or our intelligence or our contacts in Saudi Arabia, that would be a massive, massive crime, and led to the deaths of people. If that Salman did kill people based on information he did get about those people. Now, we don't know that Jared Kushner gave it to him for sure, and if it's that level of crime, Anna, that's why Gabbard would hide it, because that's borderline treason. And of course, if you remember, right after the first term was over, Jared Kushner got $2 billion from the Saudis into his investment vehicle.
So his business deals and how he profits off of, the White House and Saudi Arabia certainly plays into that. That could be it. But what we're missing in your theory is how Iran was involved, right? Because part of the discussion, the Wall Street Journal says at least part of the discussion, which makes me think the focus of the discussion likely was Iran. So what is that about? Right, like how does Iran play a role in this?
Yeah, so I don't know either. And so it's not just the Israelis that hate Iran. The Saudis also hate Iran.
That's true.
And the Saudis are Sunni and the Iranians are Shia. And they've had conflicts against one another through proxies in the Middle East. So, look, if it was just Jared Kushner, just one more thing, Anna. Just talking about, hey, can we try to start a war with Iran? That's not a crime. That's pretty much what all of Congress is doing and Trump is doing and the entire Israeli lobby is doing. It has to be an actual crime because that's what they're talking about here. And apparently a very, very serious one. And the people that have looked at the documents say, oh boy, yeah, the charges are very serious. So we'll see, but right now we don't know for sure. I'm just telling you that earlier reporting because it is about the Middle East, it is about Jared Kushner, and so we wonder if that was correct.
Yeah, and look, the thing about Jared Kushner that's maddening is, okay, he's not an elected member of our government, but he's also not an official appointee of President Trump's. Yet he is front and center in the most important foreign policy issues of our time. Why is he the one who is engaging in so-called negotiations? I don't trust this guy. Negotiations when it comes to Iran and whether or not we go to war, right? Like constantly meeting with the Israelis and then pretending like he and Steve Witkoff are gonna meet with the Iranians in good faith to pen a new nuclear deal. These are not people who have any interest in peace. These are people who look at the federal government and how they can exploit, their access to it for their own purposes. And they've already made a tremendous amount of money doing so. And who gets to suffer with their involvement in these geopolitical issues? We do.
Yeah.
Jared Kushner is not interested in peace. That much is very clear. When that guy looks at the bloodshed and the absolute leveling of Gaza, and his main takeaway is that's prime real estate. How can I profit off of this? How are you gonna trust this guy? Oh, he's volunteering for the Trump administration. Isn't he such a great guy? He's volunteering his time. No, it's an investment for his own profitability. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And so shame on Tulsi Gabbard, who is a total wench who pretends like she's anti-war, but I think it's abundantly clear that in this case, she is providing cover for bad actors who certainly want to go to war with Iran. And so I can't wait to learn the details about this stuff. She is just an ultimate scumbag. And I would be happy to admit I'm wrong if some way, somehow it is proven that no, she actually did this in an effort to prevent war with Iran, but I doubt it. Anyway, final thoughts, Jake?
Yeah. Just Tulsi Gabbard's an utter fraud and a total sellout. It's not like she's like, oh, I agreed with the Republicans on one thing, or oh, I joined Trump because I'm anti-war. No, you're in favor of all the wars Trump started. You're a giant liar, and it's not one or three issues. You agree with him on everything, and now you're covering up Jared Kushner's crimes. You can't be a bigger sellout than that. So that she's super clear. Last thing is on Jared Kushner is, look. To Anna's point, he's looking to build condos in Gaza. Israel has 53% of it now. They'll probably start over there. They're gonna build it on top of the dead Palestinian children. Jared Kushner has no soul. He's obviously one of the most immoral men I've ever seen. He's a like a ghoul, a goblin. He goes around like he looks pale, like he needs more blood, and he's like, yes, now we will build luxury condos on top of the people we murdered. Like he's like a sick, depraved man. But I don't think in this case, I'd be surprised if it was about Israel. I think the Saudi one is much, much, much more likely to be the case, in my opinion. Why? Because always follow the money. I mean, you think the Saudis gave him $2 billion right after he left office because they thought he was the best investor they could find? No, I mean, use common sense. That's the most obvious payoff in human history. So I don't know what he did for the Saudis, but apparently they thought it was worth $2 billion.
Well, people like him will bend over for any type of money-making opportunity. Anyway, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about Alex Jones, who speaks out of two sides of his mouth when it comes to the issue of the Jeffrey Epstein cover-up. There was a story published in Mediaite today highlighting how he was saying how sick this all is. He said something a little different when he was on the PBD podcast today. I'll show you what I'm talking about when we come back.
All right, guys, let me try to go through these as quickly as I can. Let's start with Super Chat. Multi-Phoenix30 says, look, just because Thomas Massie is a Republican doesn't mean I'm gonna reject him outright. Israel's messing all of us over without Vaseline. Get over your tribalism, commit to research, make it make sense. I agree. User 5 says, about accepting folks coming to our side. We need to take any allies we can get on our big issues. It's crunch time. Don't listen to those trying to divide us. We must unite now before it's too late. Couldn't agree more. Free meatballs and linguine, I already agree, says they already controlled our textbooks through Robert Maxwell, and they did. So Robert Maxwell bought the companies that make our textbooks, and that was after he stole our nuclear secrets. And America allowed him to do that because the American government is compromised. There's no other explanation for it. And by the way, if you people will reflexively go like, oh, that can't be true, that's anti-Semitic. You're saying that the Jews controlled it. No, nobody said anything about the Jews. Nobody's calling a middle-class Jewish person. That's not true. But is Robert Maxwell a spy for the Israelis? Yes. Did he buy those the companies that published those textbooks? Yes, definitively. It's not arguable, it's a fact. You can look it up. Yeah, I know, facts are anti-Semitic. Jenke says on YouTube membership, because Trump's strategy is to never apologize and he demands that from those around him. And that's why Pam Bondi did what she did. You're absolutely right, brother. It's Trump 101 and the whole screaming, the Dow's over, 5,000 is 50,000, whatever. That's also Trump. Those are all Trump talking points. Faye Scott Smith says, hi, Anna and Jenke, I'm in my 40s. And I'm now just truly being a free thinker. I did vote for Trump and I do now regret it. I'm so thankful I started watching your show. I'm staying independent. I mean, Faye, who doesn't love you? Who doesn't love you?
I love you.
Yeah.
No, I love free thinkers. That's what I want. I want free thinkers. Look, I don't begrudge anyone in the country or our audience who's still kind of beholden to like the political labels, because we've been conditioned to think that way for such a long time. I want you to think for yourself. And that means you disagree with me sometimes, and viciously so, and that's totally okay. But we have to find a way to get good-hearted, well-meaning Americans together, regardless of how they voted, okay? Because we need to save the country. We're in a really bad place right now. And if you're spending more time demonizing your fellow Americans, as opposed to thinking about how we can fix all the messes that we find ourselves in today, we're done for. We're just done for. And I want to use our time and our energy and all the hard work that we do to improve material conditions here for Americans. That's the most important thing to me, period.
Yeah, so look, we've all been brainwashed by mainstream media, Democrats, Republicans, Israel, etc. So if you haven't been brainwashed and you knew everything from the get-go, then go ahead and throw a glass at, throw a stone, as long as you're sure that you don't live in a glass house. But I think we all live in glass houses, so we should stop throwing stones. John Branch says, USS Liberty, never forgive Israel, never forget June 8th, 1967, never forget USS Liberty attack. Israel did attack us, and they did murder our service members, and American media and politicians make excuses for it. Just Jim says, first, Cenk, thank you for dressing down. Maybe I deserved it. Second, I'm not a purist in any form. I disagree with TYT and any other left outlet all the time. Third, I'm sure I'm not stupid. I will continue to disagree as I see fit, and I'm sure we can agree on that. We do agree.
I just love you.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. I keep reading Just Jim's comments right before we run out of time. Last thing real quick. Jim, of course I don't think you're stupid. Nobody, everybody can disagree on a million things. It has nothing to do with intelligence. And yes, we can definitely disagree. So you saw me get animated there. You seem like you're all right with it. Am I all right with you disagreeing with me? Of course. All right, so let's move on. Anna, what's next?
Also, one other thing. I don't think Thomas Massie has ever once referred to himself as a populist. In fact, his libertarianism kind of makes him the opposite of a populist. But I just wanted to kind of get that off my chest because I think there's a misinterpretation of his political ideology.
I know all these words mean nothing except, well, populist right now, all it means is not an establishment Israel ass kisser who will do anything for donors. Like if you're not beholden to the donors, good enough for me to call you a populist. That's all. But let's keep going.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about a conversation I heard this morning that if you listen carefully, you'll kind of see what's going on here. And it has to do with Alex Jones and his commentary around the Epstein files.
This is number one fumble. And so if they hired 5 advisors to go sit in a room with them, these are logical players. You're one of them. What counsel do you give to them?
Well, when I was driving here this morning, I know the White House watches your show. They watch mine, but not as much. But I've been told by the folks that they love your show, and I hope they listen. It's killing Trump. My family, people on the street, my callers, my listeners, I've got my finger on the pulse. I don't need a poll to tell people want a rebel that goes after the evil deep state.
They certainly do. And while the president, Donald Trump, purported to be one of the warriors who wanted to fight and dismantle the deep state, he's proven to do pretty much anything but. And so it's curious why Alex Jones continues to provide cover for the Trump administration, even as they bungled the release of the Epstein files. Prior to that, didn't want to release the Epstein files. And what's interesting to me, Cenk, is how Alex Jones speaks from both sides of his mouth, because fact of the matter is he built his entire career railing against the deep state, talking about how the government works against us, does these cover-ups. He wanted the Epstein files released. I mean, this is the type of stuff, again, he built his name on. And then when Trump comes into office and proves that he is the antithesis of the type of leadership Alex Jones wants, he provides cover. And that's what I want to present today. Before I do, Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, I don't think he was providing cover for Trump. So I listened to it. Yeah, it seems like that. And he keeps attacking the Democrats, trying to make this seem like it's entirely a Democratic problem. But I actually think my read on it was that he was doing cover for Israel. And it was kind of stunning. And part of the reason why I think that he attacked the Democrats so much and tried and defend the Republicans is not just because he's a Republican, because he wants to divide the country again. Remember, guys, don't blame the guys who actually did this. Blame the Democrats. Get back into your partisanship. So look out for that.
On behalf of whom, though, Cenk? On behalf of whom? Who does he want to do that for? Like, what does he get out of dividing the country?
Alex, you like conspiracy theories, right? My new theory is that Alex works for Israel. So I'll explain why a little bit later, and also in this interview, he explains how Trump should lie to cover up this mess. It's amazing. So let's watch the videos and then I'll comment.
All right, so the audience knows what you're thinking. Let me tell you what I think. I don't think that he's working for Israel. I think that Alex got a little taste little tasty taste of what access to the White House is like. And I don't think he wants to let that go. So with that in mind, let's start with the first clip, because this is where I felt like I heard the first red flag in his commentary in this conversation with Patrick Bet-David. Take a look.
The Republican Party is the pedophile protection party when it's the Democrats that are 99% in the Epstein files, actually doing stuff to kids. Let's go after the people that are Democrats that are implicated by witnesses raping young girls at the island, at Zora Ranch, at the New York facility, and in Paris. Somehow the Democrats have turned this all the way around, and conservatives are demanding, yeah, Trump, you're covering it up, release it all. And that needs to be looked at, but we need to have the main focus be on the admitted stuff that's in all of this. Bill Gates, all of it, the Democrats, the leftists, all these top billionaires that have hated Trump. This is cut and dry, but somehow it's all been turned around against Trump. And a lot of that's because of the mishandling of Trump coming out and saying it's all a hoax. And then Roger Stone went and talked to him and said, no, sir, you mean the stuff about you being involved is a hoax? Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay, I have to get this one thing out of the way. It seems tangential, but it's important because it gets on my skin. Okay, leftists are socialists. Okay, calling anyone who's on like to the left of you, so like a leftist is like the dumbest thing ever. Okay, like just please understand what a leftist is. They'll call someone like Gavin Newsom a leftist. Gavin Newsom is a corporatist hack and a terrible governor, but he's not a leftist. Anyway,
yeah.
Let me just put that aside. Okay, hold on. No, let me go. Okay, go.
Okay, just real quick in that video, notice what he said there about Trump should say, oh, when I said it's a hoax and you shouldn't look at the whole thing, I meant my portion of it is a hoax. Now, Trump's never said that. Alex Jones is coaching him how to lie about it on air because he knows his people are watching Patrick Bet-David's show. So he's coming on there. Remember, Trump, you're supposed to lie this way. So I thought that was a little telling.
Providing cover. He's providing cover. Like that's his daddy. Okay, that's what he's doing. That's the point that I'm trying to make. So look, the whole idea of this being a partisan issue, anyone, literally anyone who tries to make this a partisan issue, dispense of them. I mean it, because they are super toxic and they have no interest in doing what is right for this country and right in terms of justice for the people who managed to survive that disgusting predator, Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, because fact of the matter is, if you've looked at the files that have been released, and by the way, Channel 4 in the UK says that just 2%, they did an investigation, just 2% of the Epstein files have been released. Put that in your head and remember that as you hear more from this administration about how great they are in complying with the legislation that forces them to release the Epstein files. But like, there are Democrats and Republicans implicated in this. Okay, so I looked into Les Wexner, for instance, not a Democrat, apparently. He's a major donor to the Republicans and has been for many years. Reports from 2022 and 2026 show that Wexner has continued to donate to Republican candidates and committees, such as the Republican Governors Association, while also donating to select Democratic candidates. Okay, I just named a Democratic donor, mega donor. Let me go ahead and be fair and balanced and mention someone who I saw as a hero, Noam Chomsky, was also implicated in the Epstein files, not necessarily in criminality, but he was giving Jeffrey Epstein advice as he was being accused of more sexual misconduct. Okay, you have someone who I idolized doing that. And so we just have to be honest about what's going on here. Okay, I have no commitment or devotion to any political figure or ideologue. What I want is the truth and I want justice. By the way, I should note that Les Wexner did eventually leave the Republican Party to become an independent because he wasn't happy with Trump, but he continued donating to Republican candidates. Then you have Leon Black. Was Leon Black a Democrat? Well, he did give money to Democrats and Republicans. My point is, this is not a partisan issue. If you're making it a partisan issue, then you don't give a damn about justice related to this Epstein story at all. You're just a political operative, you're a hack, and you're pathetic. Back to you, Cenk.
Yeah, you know who else gave money to Democrats? Trump. He gave money to Hillary Clinton, Chuck Schumer earlier in their careers, and to many other Democrats. So is this a partisan issue? Absolutely not. In fact, if someone's trying to make it a partisan issue, they're hacks, and I think that they're not all working for Israel, but you should question that. So were top Democrats involved in some of these abuses? Very, 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 very likely. Very likely. Okay. And do Democrats sell us out to Israel as well? Of course, nonstop. So do Republicans. And then you see these Israel first characters. They give to Democrats, they give to Republicans, they give to Democrats, Republicans. Why? Because guys, they're not on the left or right. They're on Israel's side, period. Everything is geared towards help Israel, help Israel. Oh, we got these, the videotapes of all of these, eminently blackmailable, powerful and wealthy men now. We have the politicians, etc. So now back to Alex Jones. So yeah, and I hear what you're saying. It's possible that he's kissing Trump's ass. He thinks Trump's people.
That's all he does.
Yeah.
That's all he does.
No, he does, no question, right? So that's not in question. The question is why, right? So your theory is he loves the access, he wants to get back into the White House. Perfectly great theory, has a good chance of being true, right? Well, the reason why I'm bringing Israel to Alex Jones in specific is because Alex Jones has all these conspiracy theories that he did for all these decades, right? Apparently real ones mixed in with absolutely absurd ones. So, like if you were a person or government that was running a conspiracy, what would you want? You would want a character like Alex Jones to confuse people and make conspiracies seem absurd, ludicrous. Don't believe any conspiracy theories. Now we find out one of the largest conspiracy theories in history is correct. And all of a sudden, Alex Jones is like, I don't know, we gotta cover it up. It's just the Democrats, it's not Trump, it's not the two people. And you know what, in all these things, I mean, we had the lizard people, we have the aliens, we have the gay frogs, but somehow we don't have Israel. Somehow Alex Jones just missed Israel being a possibility, even though Dropsite News has already shown that everything Epstein did, he did to help Israel. And that's the one thing you couldn't figure out, Alex? Nah. I think Alex Jones is a false flag operation, and and by the way, he made all that money. People are like, how did he make that money from that rinky-dink show? Okay, yeah, it had some popularity for a while, but we know the numbers of what shows like that get. I could never understand how he had that much money, hundreds of millions of dollars. My theory, and if you don't like my theory, Alex, you can kiss my ass, is that you're a bitch who's always worked for Israel.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna reset for the rest of this. So Alex Jones was on the PBD podcast, and during their conversation, he gave us some insight into Pam Bondi's probably most embarrassing moment during her testimony before the House Judiciary Committee. This was about the Epstein files, the release of the Epstein files. She really didn't want to talk about the Epstein files, and this is what I'm talking about. Take a look.
Trump has been convinced that it will crash the economy if all these bankers and people, if this stuff comes out, and he thinks end justifies the means, it's too dangerous. I'm not defending this. I'm telling you what Trump's been told. And that's why I said he's told it'll crash the stock market. Bondi yesterday, it'll crash the stock market.
The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about.
They know it's a giant mess of BS and crap. And then the women that are the victims and the survivors, almost all of them were, got into it. And that's how it worked. And we're actually madams, out running these operations.
So, in the tail end of that clip, as you just heard, he seems to be doing a little bit of victim blaming here. Seems like he's attacking the survivors. And if you're thinking, nah, come on, Anna, he wouldn't do that. I want to now turn to a longer video where he does exactly that.
The women that they've, settled with and then are the victims and all this stuff, almost all of them are the women that ended up working for Epstein for years and years and years.
Recruiting other young girls to come to him for $200, $100.
Absolutely.
You'll get paid.
Absolutely. Some were bought at age, this is public, at age 9 or 10 from their Eastern European parents, flown here and then worked for him for decades. And so exactly, they're the ones that manage and run the women. And so when you see these women up there, you have to understand that in many cases, you're looking at people that for 5 years, 10 years, worked for Epstein and were part of it. But see, that's how they stop it. Those women then tell a limited story about what was going on. But then you read the names of some of the women, they're in all the emails preparing the beef jerky. A couple of women in there were actually girlfriends after they were adults and worked for Epstein for over a decade. And it turns out worked for George Soros. So see, I'm not trying to demonize the women. I'm just saying it's what you're seeing is not what you're actually getting here.
So let me get this straight. The 8 and 10-year-olds who were purchased from their Eastern European parents and brought here to the United States to be exploited by Epstein and his co-conspirators. They're actually not survivors. They're not victims at all. They're madams. They're madams. They get raped until they're adults, and then they end up working for Epstein. And so as a result, they have no credibility. Like, what was that argument? What was that? What was that? And what are you trying to cover up for, Alex? What was that, Cenk?
Yeah, so he doesn't want anybody to listen to the victims, and he's trying to smear the victims.
Survivors,
in fact,
yeah.
Anna, it reminded me of Alan Dershowitz.
Totally.
Yeah, and that's why earlier in the program I was talking about his connections to Israel, because he's doing the same exact Israel first strategy. Attack the victims, say they're the ones that are really at fault, make it a partisanship issue so that you divide the country and that no one bothers to look up. And in all of his conspiracy theories, he just couldn't find a way to actually care about the victims and actually go after the predators. But the predators are scot-free. There's no investigation, and Alex Jones doesn't seem animated by that. He doesn't seem to care much about that, but he does care a lot about attacking the victims. Maybe he's in the room with the predators
all of a sudden. Maybe he likes that, right? I mean, how many times is Trump mentioned in the files? How many people in the Trump administration are mentioned in the like? Maybe Alex Jones finds that access to the White House way more important. So why not throw cold water on the claims being made by the women now who were purchased as children from their Eastern European parents earlier? Like, what was that? That was so disgusting, okay? That disgusting hog. And by the way, one other thing that I should know, think about the context. Think about all the other things that we've discovered through the Epstein files in recent days. Namely things like the massive drums of sulfuric acid that Jeffrey Epstein purchased on the same day the FBI opened up an investigation into him. Gee, could it be that maybe there's a possibility, I don't know for sure, but there's a possibility that the sulfuric acid was purchased in order to destroy evidence? Because sulfuric acid will melt human bodies, including human bones. Maybe something we should look into. So when you're on a freaking island with all of these billionaire predators attacking you, and Epstein demands that you recruit other females, children to be exploited, I don't know, there's a possibility that if you don't comply, you could get killed, number one. Let's go to that graphic, by the way. This is what I'm talking about when I refer to the order of sulfuric acid. If you look at the description, the purpose or description for the purchase, it says 6 55-gallon drums, sulfuric acid with fuel and insurance charge for transport. And the claim is that it's being used for a reverse osmosis plant. And that could be true. But you know what I also think is fascinating? That we found out that homeboy had a freaking trap door to the ocean in his estate. Gee, I wonder what he did with that. What was the purpose of that? But we're gonna sit here and we're gonna talk about the 8 and 10-year-olds who were purchased from their parents in Eastern Europe by Jeffrey Epstein and demonize them? We're gonna demonize them. Okay, yeah. I see through you right away, Alex, right away. Disgusting.
Yeah, so Ryan Grimm found one of the emails today. He put it up on X of an Epstein girlfriend sending Epstein an article about a young college woman who went missing. There's no explanation of it. She just sends it like they already know. Like, I don't know what happened to that girl. We don't know what happened to the baby of the 16-year-old who was raped by Leon Black, according to the documents.
According to her diary.
Yeah, and you buy the sulfuric acid on the day that you might have to bury evidence. If you think that's a coincidence, sorry, but you're a moron. Of course, that's not a coincidence. Obviously, it's to get rid of evidence. The question is, what evidence? So did we get any of the tapes? But I don't know why they bother getting rid of the evidence. Our government never investigates it. And so again, back to Alex Jones, all these conspiracy theories, and in that podcast with PBD, it's like, Skull and Bones and George H.W. Bush and these secret societies and the cult, blah, blah, blah. Or could it be, like the governments and the intelligence agencies that do conspiracies all the time? So that didn't occur to Alex Jones. Hey, maybe it's the Saudis, maybe it's the Israelis, maybe it's the British, whatever. Nope, didn't occur to him. No, it must have been a secret society of the occult from the 1800s. But whatever you do, do not investigate the predators, do not investigate Republicans, do not investigate anything but the victims. Yeah, okay.
Listen, if you're a woman in the United States of America, get a good hard look at our government and our law enforcement agencies and understand this is what we're dealing with. So if you're an adult female, go to a gun range, start training, know how to protect yourself. If you are a mother to daughters, okay, teach your daughters how to throat punch someone. Teach your daughters how to defend themselves. Because in this country, we have to essentially protect ourselves. We can't rely on the people whose salaries we pay to protect us. That's the reality. We'll be back.
I will eat your ass. He's gross.
All right, let's go to members at TYT.com. Jenny Talia says, welcome back, Cenk. I love when you and Anna are together in the studio. I love when you and Anna do the in unison bye-bye. How did that start and how long have you been doing it? Anna handled it well on her own, such a champ, but we love having you two together. I agree, Jenny. I love it when we do the show together, which is of course on most days. And the bye-bye came up, I haven't tracked it, maybe a decade ago, I don't know, but it's a reference to John McLaughlin, who used to say that, and on the McLaughlin Report that I used to watch as a nerdy little kid on Saturday mornings. I'd watch wrestling, Super Friends, and the McLaughlin Report, and he'd end each one guy going, bye-bye. Okay, so that's what we're kind of doing homage to. Little Mac McGee says, LOL, salt Anna, you never have to worry where you stand with her, she'll tell you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Don Dada Dragon says, I recently started a group chat with my right and left-wing populist / conspiracy theorists. We wanted to make sure we weren't the victims of the algo. We wanted to stop echo chambers. It's been going well so far. I love that you're doing that on your own. I love that you're getting the left and the right together. I mean, the left on our own, or even the right on their own, we can't get our government back from the disgusting, sick people who run it. We've got to do it as a whole country. So I hope you guys are on board for that. Virginia and South Carolina said, you might not be mom or dad, but you guys have raised generations of people to think critically. I've grown so much as a person because of everyone at TYT, so thank you for being yourselves. You're too good to us, Virginia. Much love. Dragon Old Balls, it is what it is. That's his handle, says, Cenk, I watched the whole interview. I think he's referring to the Tucker Carlson one. I thought it was great, except for his laugh. Yeah, it's definitely the Tucker Carlson one. But I will get past that, thanks. Yeah, so, everyone, not everyone, but I haven't heard a single criticism yet from folks who have watched it. I'm sure it exists, obviously it exists, right? I haven't heard it, but it's been like overwhelmingly 99% positive. The only people criticizing it so far are the people who didn't watch it. And they're like, oh, you should never talk to Tucker Carlson. Even if he says war is wrong, then we have to love war. You're evil. Okay, yeah, watch it and watch him agree with our positions one after another, after another, after another. It's a wonderful turn that some on the right have done on those issues. I am so exhausted from telling people to say yes. Like that's super complicated thought apparently for a lot of the hosts. Okay, Dirge says, I loved how often people were sarcastically quoting the Dow's over 50,000 online today as a counter argument for everything. Yeah, absolutely. Wang Jun says, because it's funny, and I like that they're all making fun of her. And they've lost the meme wars. So Trump's not cool anymore, his administration's not cool anymore, and now they're being mocked, and I love it. Wang Jun says, we know Alex Jones doesn't give a flying F about child victims. Don't take it from me, just ask Sandy Hook parents. That is a terrific point. Yes, he doesn't care about children or the innocent. He's a disgusting person. Happy Warrior Dragon, thank you for gifting a membership on Twitch. Mr. Scarfio4 on Twitch says, I'm old enough to remember when Jordan Peterson pretending that Canada would throw you in jail for using the wrong pronouns. It looks like Florida said, hold my beer. Yeah, now that you're gonna get imprisoned if you disagree with Israel. What happened, right wing? Back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you, also Red Maze. Thank you for joining, we really appreciate it. The join button's below, it makes a big difference to us. And of course, the ring the bell allows you to get our programming whenever we go live. And then if you're watch your subscriptions tab on YouTube, if you ring the bell, it'll put us in that subscription tab, and so that you'll be able to access it much easier. And it obviously costs nothing at all, it costs about 2 seconds. All right, Anna, what's next?
Turns out that individuals who formerly worked for the Obama administration are learning that members of the Obama administration don't care much when it comes to the topic of genocide.
When it came to the issue with Gaza, you went out and you condemned the administration.
Yeah.
And that must have been tough for you. You know a lot of people that work in the administration. These are friends, colleagues, people that have your cell phone number.
That was one of the most disappointing and frankly, naively now in retrospect, surprising things. And it was just incredibly deeply disturbing that there was no room for a conversation about anything.
That was actor and comedian Kal Penn, who just revealed that he did indeed attempt to get through to the Biden administration about just how unpopular its foreign policy on the topic of Israel was with young voters. And that was definitely relevant information for them to digest, considering the fact that, we had an election coming up and typical Democratic voters wanted some answers about how, let's say, Kamala Harris would do things differently when it came to Israel and Gaza. And in every case that I can think of, people would get shut down. And that is no exception when it comes to Kal Penn, who, by the way, did work in the Obama administration. I can give you some details into that. But first, Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, so we hate partisanship on this issue. And I'm super proud that Kal Penn is finally waking up, but more importantly, that a lot of what you call normie Democrats are waking up to the fact that Democratic leaders lied to you. So we're gonna talk about that, and of course also true of Republican leaders, but we're also gonna talk about why, especially with Blinken and Biden. So let's get the facts first.
Now, while Kal Penn has, he's best known for his acting, the reality is that he's been very involved in politics for a long time now. So in 2009, he actually left his job as a cast member on House to take a position in the Obama White House. He became the associate director of the White House Office of Public Engagement. And in that role, he served as Obama's liaison to young Americans, Asian Americans, and Pacific Islanders, and the arts community as well. So he also became a co-chair for Obama's 2012 presidential campaign, his re-election campaign. Now, over his time in politics, he developed contacts, as you would, especially if you're working for an administration. And he thought, look, this genocide is ongoing in Gaza. I should maybe tap into the contacts that I have to communicate to the Biden administration, hey, the way you're handling this is not good, okay? You're actually turning a lot of young Democratic voters off. So during this podcast interview, fellow comedian Hasan Minhaj asks Penn how he navigated calling out people in Biden's inner circle that he had previously had personal relationships with. Take a look.
That was one of the most disappointing and frankly, naively now in retrospect, surprising things. I remember thinking to myself, and there were a group of us that would text about this. And I remember like Ben Rhodes, for example, who's been very outspoken, chatting with him, chatting with other people who worked in the National Security Council in the Obama White House who are more aligned with what like a Rhodes or I believe in our view. Kind of thought, okay, before I like go out there and tweet about something, I have these relationships. Like, let me call them. Let me send a note to like Blinken and Kamala. And like, this is the whole point of having these relationships is, hey, I'm really
You had Antony Blinken's email.
I sent it to an aide. Yeah.
Wow.
And made sure he saw it. Like, yes, the secretary's seen this. I'm like, great. And these are letters that just, not as an actor, not that there's no shade to that, but like primarily as, hey, I was Obama's youth guy. Here's what I'm hearing.
So Antony Blinken is and was a disgrace, and something that I warned about the second that Biden tapped him to serve in his administration was the fact that he had been working at a think tank that he founded. And these think tanks allow for certain corruption to take place without disclosure, as you would have with some, political donations or campaign contributions. Basically, with his think tank, he was working on behalf of foreign governments, including Israel. And he was connecting, Israeli interests with the contacts that he had made during his time working in the Obama White House. So I knew that this guy was not going to have the type of foreign policy that is beneficial for the American people because he had been making money off of foreign governments who want us to be in perpetual war. Nonetheless, the administration's reaction to Kal Penn's outreach was basically nothing. Take a look.
I had phone calls with some of these people, and it was just incredibly deeply disturbing that there was no room for a conversation about anything. And so the national security, cultural diplomacy stuff that I do is mostly rooted in human rights and cultural diplomacy within human rights. So it was just a real bummer, frankly. But I thought that so what you're probably referring to are some of the tweets or posts that I made or fundraisers for like Doctors Without Borders and what the hell are we doing here? But the starting point for that for a good 6 to 8 months was still believing that private pressure would work. And obviously, it didn't, which is a bummer.
Now, I highly recommend you guys listen to the full conversation because there were so many juicy like tidbits in there that we just don't have time to get to. But I do want to go to the last video here because obviously he was discouraged after what he experienced with the Biden administration. So Hasan Minhaj asked him, well, like, how do you plan on voting in the future now that the Democrats have kind of like shown you who they really are? Take a look.
I think like a lot of people, I don't know who you support nationally with the Dems right now. I think we'll have to see what they decide to do. Meaning I'm not a single issue voter, but in the next presidential election, people are going to have to be held accountable about how do they feel about the universality of human rights.
At this moment, I personally am a single issue voter and I will not vote for anyone who supports the foreign nation state of Israel. Cenk, back to you.
Yeah, OperationConsequences.com pledged to never vote for anyone who gives money to Israel. They committed a genocide with our money. They want to attack even more of their neighbors, and they continue to kill Palestinians at a rate of about 5 a day. They never stopped the bombing them. They're a disgusting fascist government, and if you say I'm going to send your money to them, of course I'm not going to give you my vote. I would never vote for anyone who's pro-genocide. I mean, who would do that? Right, almost all of Congress who are completely bought by Israel. So what Kal Penn thought is what a lot of Democrats thought. Oh, no, our guys are good guys. Yeah, when Mitch McConnell takes $1 billion from corporations and foreign governments, of course he's evil and he serves them. But when Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden take $1 billion, No, they did it out of goodness of their heart. They're all wonderful, they're angels. And if you just talk to them, you'll be able to persuade them to do the right thing. But it's weird because decade after decade after decade, no one's been able to convince them to do the right thing, whether it's on Israel or on any other issue. And they just go, oh, well, next time. But 30 years later, we might do universal health care. They're lying to you. So thank you for beginning to notice it. And it's not just about Israel, they're lying to you about everything. So we can't negotiate drug prices. Obama ran against that policy, Biden ran against it. They didn't do anything. They worked for the drug companies. Obama bailed out the banks. They were his #1 donor in 2008. He paid them bonuses after they crashed our economy because they were his top donors. These guys are all sellouts. They're not your friends, they're not allies, they're not nice. Antony Blinken is one of the most corrupt people in the country. Democrats are like, oh, but he looks so professional, he's so well-educated and well-spoken, and he doesn't seem to say anything crass. He's so stately. But what does he do? When his own State Department brought in dozens and dozens of allegations, actually by the end, hundreds and thousands of allegations of the Israelis violating human rights, which meant that we should cut off funding to Israel, Blinken buried it and said, under no condition will we ever hold Israel accountable. Why? Because either he is getting paid by Israel through his think tank, or he's loyal to Israel for other reasons, and he's not loyal to America. That's why he betrayed the State Department. He violated its laws. He didn't listen to anyone else. And of course, he was empowered by one of the most corrupt people who've ever been in American politics, Joe Biden. He was known as a senator from MBNA because he used to sell out to the credit card companies, and that was one credit card company in Delaware. That's how much Joe Biden was a giant sellout that people literally nicknamed him as a sellout. Who was his top donor though? Not MBNA, not one of the credit card companies. Over the span of his career, $11 million from AIPAC. And that's why he would do the humiliating ritual where he would come out and say, I am a Zionist, a proud Zionist. Why do you care about the national theme or driving force behind Poland or Malaysia or Israel? Why, isn't that so weird? If he came out and he was like, I love India, so I'm a Hindu nationalist. You'd be like, what? Why are these people all declaring that they're Zionists and they work for Israel? Because they literally work for Israel. They literally work for Israel. So of course you should never vote for anyone who gives funding to Israel. I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat. Vote them out in your own primaries. Vote out almost all the incumbents. They're all corrupt. They all work for Israel. They all work for these corporations that are robbing us blind. So, and I'm not gonna do to Kal Penn what unfortunately our side does to the right wing when they realize that Trump's a con man. So I'm not looking at this like, ha ha, Kal, you got it wrong. No. Thank you, brother, for being honest and for, and just leveling with us and going, hey, you know what? I worked in the Obama administration, but no, they don't really care about you. The Biden team didn't, Antony Blinken didn't. And no, I'm not gonna vote for you anymore if you say you work for another government and you're gonna cover up war crimes and make us pay for it. So I love that he came out and did this. And guys, last thing for me is that our government is obviously compromised. So all of our politicians swear allegiance to Israel for no reason. What a bizarre thing to do. They never swear allegiance to Slovenia, right? I mean, how? It's so weird. But the illusion has been created that if you don't swear allegiance to Israel, you hate Jews and your life should be ruined. Okay, yeah, I get it. Israel is a thug that has captured our government. Last piece of proof on that is all these rapes of American girls, the CIA knew for decades. Epstein clearly connected to Israel. Read the drop site news stories. Procures cyber weapons for Israel. Handles Israeli intelligence in the Iran-Contra affair. And so not one person at the CIA outed these guys. The CIA is completely compromised. And apparently there's not a single patriot that works at the CIA because they've handed our government over to Israel and so have our corrupt politicians. So Kal Penn just recognized it, but guess what? We're all noticing now. So operationconsequences.com, never vote for anyone that gives our money to a genocidal, maniac, fascist government like Israel. All right. We're out of time, guys. When I come back in the revolution, we are going to interview 2 Democrats running for office in Texas. And it should be fascinating because the redistricting in Texas might have been a mistake for the Republicans. So that is fascinating. Anna, thank you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
All right, back on the Young Turks network, TYT. All right, so let me go to our interviews here. I was thinking of doing a segment on Operation Consequences, but I just mentioned in the last story, so good enough. All right, joining us now is Dr. Reverend Haynes and Zishan Hafiz. They're a progressive power duo. I like that description. In North Texas, and it turns out the Texas redistricting might backfire on the Republicans. So let's talk about it. Welcome, guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, no
I
problem.
appreciate it. It's great to see you, Cenk.
Yeah, great to see you guys.
I appreciate what you do for independent journalism. It's amazing.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you saying that. All right.
And let me personally testify. In 2010, I did a sermon after Obama came out for ensuring that there's equality when it comes to marriage. And I did a sermon, and next thing I know, I'm famous, and I didn't know it. And it's because the Young Turks had just played my sermon on repeat. And as a consequence, I'm hearing all of this about me, and I'm saying, wow, I'm famous. And so I want to thank you all for that. That was my first foray into fame, thanks to the Young Turks.
Well, Reverend Haynes, you deserved it, and it was a beautiful sermon. And so we just highlight good folks, and I appreciate you calling that out. Let me start with you, Reverend Haynes. So they did this redistricting, and it looks like you're going to be the presumptive Democratic nominee in your district, which is Texas 30, right? So tell me if these two districts are supposed to be among the blue ones, or they're supposed to be among the contested ones?
Well, District 30 is supposed to be the one where Democrats should win. It should be blue. And so we are unashamedly, unapologetically running as progressives, radical progressives at that. At the same time, what they did not count on when it comes to District 33 is that my man Zishan would be running. And so there's an energy that he is bringing to this race, because not only does he make sense for such a time as this, but he is making sense if this country is going to have the kind of future that it claims it wants and that we really deserve. And so I'm convinced that, and forgive me for the biblical reference here, what they intended for evil is going to be worked for good.
So, but I'm going to get to Zishan in a second, but in your case, Reverend Haynes, so if you're, the presumptive nominee and it's a blue district, and you just called yourself a radical progressive, then the redistricting is going to put at least one more radical progressive into Congress, isn't it?
Well, that's the plan. And so we want to, now I will say, I appreciate saying I'm the presumptive nominee, but I'm running like I'm way behind because it's very important that we don't take anyone for granted. We're listening to all of our constituents and making sure that everyone feels a part of this movement that we're trying to generate that is not limited to District 30, but it's something that we need if we're going to turn this country around.
Yeah. Now, Zishan, you're in a different district, and that's Texas 33, and that one's a little bit tougher. That one's got a three-way race. It's got Julie Johnson in there, but also Colin Allred. So Colin Allred, of course, was an incumbent. Why are you in that race? Because in the old days, Zishan, what they would have said is, well, we already have a Democratic incumbent in that race. What do we need you for?
Well, Cenk, it's interesting because I actually started my exploratory committee back in May of last year before the redistricting occurred, this racial gerrymandering which occurred here in Texas. And I was running against Mark Vesey. And I announced in August, and I live in the district, later on in December, after the redistricting occurred, instead of Julie doing what Taylor Amet did in a state Senate seat right next to me, which is to turn a Trump district blue, she decided she would forum shop and join my district. And obviously, as you mentioned, Colin Allred was in Congress in 2024. But the problem with both Julie Johnson and Colin Allred is they are running this race as though they are still running in the old District 32, which was a close district. Maybe they had to run moderate on their stances. District 33 and District 30 are two of the bluest districts in the entire country. So they should not be represented by centrist, moderate, corporatist Democrats. We're going to play it safe at a time when our country is having an authoritarian takeover by a wannabe fascist. In a time like this, gradual incrementalism and centrism is not going to get the job done. We need bold progressive voices. And that's why Reverend Haynes and I are running on this ticket together for District 30 and District 33 for Trump's plan to backfire on him, because he'll get two of his most vociferous opponents coming to him from the heart of Texas.
So Zishan, mainstream media misuse the word centrist and moderate. It should mean what the majority of Americans believe, but it's never meant that on television and in the New York Times, et cetera. It usually means radical corporatist, but that we're going to reframe as centrist so they sound more palatable, right? So, but tell me for Julie Johnson and Colin Allred, what is it about their policies that are unacceptably corporate or establishment that you're pointing out here?
Well, there's three areas that I think are very important to the American people right now. One is the affordability crisis. Julie Johnson just put out an ad about how she's going to sign on to the Raise the Wage Act. All the Raise the Wage Act does is raise the wage to $9.50 an hour. It's cents when we need way more to actually get something done. Where I'm fighting for a minimum of a $20 to $25 living wage, and that's what we need all across the country. I've been fighting for Medicare for all from day one. Colin Allred refuses to sign on to Medicare for all. I'm fighting for free public education at the university level. That's something that we need during an affordability crisis, so people don't have to be indebted by education. I'm fighting to make sure, and these are the same things that Reverend Haynes is fighting for. We are fighting for affordable housing by investing in millions of affordable housing units all across the country. We are fighting to raise the Social Security benefits by at least $200 a month by raising the cap on Social Security. We are fighting for a Green New Deal. All these things that we are fighting for, Colin and Julie are not on the right side of. And when we talk about the issues that matter to every single Democrat, line in the sand issues, these should be line in the sand issues for anyone, but they are line in the sand issues for Democrats. Both Reverend Haynes and I are proudly on the right side of history, meaning, one, we are completely, unapologetically, 100% against AIPAC and the genocide. We're going to call it what it is. It is a genocide. We are going to put an end to the apartheid state of Israel, and we're going to fight for self-determination for the Palestinian people. And the reason why we're going to do that is because we refuse AIPAC money, unlike Julie Johnson and Colin Allred, who have received a combined $700,000 from AIPAC and the pro-Israel lobby. That's 700,000 reasons to vote against your best interests. And number two, the other major line in the sand issue is ICE. Both Reverend Haynes and I have been very vocal on this. We believe it's not okay to we think it's not only okay, we have to abolish ICE, but we must now prosecute ICE. That means we must prosecute ICE agents for their crimes, murdering people on the streets, raping women in detention centers, beating up women and children in cars, attacking civilian neighborhoods. They're using Gestapo-like tactics that they were trained on by the Israeli Defense Forces, and that is unacceptable. Unfortunately, Colin and Julie say we can somehow reform ICE. Well, we both know that ICE is an organization that has been recruiting from the white supremacy movement. It is a rotten organization, one that must be eliminated from government, and there's about a dozen other agencies that deal with immigration enforcement, but have accountability. They have people that have IDs, that have badges, that wear uniforms, that don't wear masks, that have body cameras, and don't go around in unmarked cars terrorizing communities of color. On these important issues, the issues that matter to the American people, Reverend Haynes and I are on the right side of history. And unfortunately, Julie Johnson, Colin Allred, and many of the establishment Democrats who have failed America and failed the American democracy, they are on the wrong side of these issues.
Okay, so you already got the votes of the folks who signed the pledge on OperationConsequences.com, because they pledged to never vote for somebody taking Israeli lobby money. And Colin Allred and Julie Johnson apparently work for Israel, so that settles that issue. I mean, they are literally getting paid to vote with Israel. And it's not like they're getting paid $70. They're getting paid $700,000. So, okay, that's super clear. Reverend Haynes, let me bring you back in because you did something bold. You know, you're in a, again, I love that you're not taking it easy, et cetera. And I'm not saying you're definitely gonna win. I'm just saying you're in a little bit more comfortable situation than Zishan is with a couple of incumbents, et cetera. But you decided to back Zishan and endorse him. In the old days, that would have cost you, a lot. The Democratic Party would have come crashing down on you. How dare you? You must back the corporate candidates. So why did you take that kind of risk, and has there been any blowback?
Well, it's simple. Number one, I agree with what Zishan is pushing by way of policies. It's simple. He has a vision that, and I love what he said, is on the right side of history. It's also on the right side of where the American people are. It's on the right side of creating the kind of future that we need to make this country what it should become and has the possibility to become. And so, ironically, my daughter, who is a political junkie, she was just going through some things on social media, and she saw him speaking and the policies that he was so brilliantly articulating. And she called me up and said, "Daddy, do you know him?" I said, "We've met on one or two occasions, I believe." And then the very next day, I'll never will forget this, he and I were at a rally standing with persons as it relates to Social Security and raising the cap on Social Security. We are at a rally the very next day. I can guarantee you there were no other candidates who were at that rally except for Zishan and myself. And so I felt it was poetic, at least, if not prophetic and providential, that our paths crossed just one day after the conversation I had with my daughter. And again, we hit it off immediately. every time we came in contact with each other, it just got, forgive me, gooder and gooder. Because again, we're on the same page. We have a vision that is similar for what this country should become and what it can become and has the potential to become. Martin Luther King Jr. in his last speech said, "Be true to what you said on paper." Zishan has a vision that will cause this country to be true to what it said on paper. So again, when it came to speaking, Reverend Jesse Jackson often talked when he was running for the presidency in '84 and '88 about the call of conscience and doing what the conscience is saying as opposed to what a poll is saying. And so as far as I was concerned, I went with not only my heart, but with my head when it comes to a similar vision for what this country can do and what it can become. And so blowback, I'll just say that I could care less.
Okay, I love it. All right, so I want to ask you guys some personal questions, have a little bit of fun, and get to know you guys. But before I do that, super quick, so both of you are not taking Israeli money. How about corporate PAC money? Dr. Haynes, no? No. SC, Sean?
Not only can we not take corporate PAC money, but we must end Citizens United. And both Reverend Haynes and I will be on the forefront of ending Citizens United. And we won't be like those Democrats like Julie Johnson who claim that she's working to end Citizens United while she takes $500,000 from corporate PACs. We will never take a dime of corporate PAC money, and we will fight to end the corporate corruption which owns our government right now.
Yeah, and for the audience at home, look, it isn't about Israel. It's about if you take money from anyone, including ExxonMobil and Pfizer and Lockheed Martin, you work for them, right? And you don't work for your voters. So I love that stance, guys. And we'll put the links down below if you're watching this later on any platform. But ZSeanForTexas.com and HaynesForCongress.com. They don't take corporate PAC money, so then you guys got to step up if you agree and make sure you're supporting folks who are going to be independent and not just take orders. It's a new day in America, man. I mean, look, guys, honestly, if you were running before, and I did like 2 years ago or 4 years ago for sure, and you told me you weren't going to listen to Democratic leadership, I wouldn't believe you. They always go in and listen to exactly what Democratic leadership tells them to do. They always bow their heads, etc. But I get a sense from you two brothers that you are not going to listen. Okay, and I appreciate that. Okay, all right. So Zishan, what do you do for a living before you got into politics?
So I'm a father first. I'm proudly the father of my fourth son, Sufyan, who was just born 2 weeks ago. He's the fourth son that me and my wife Fatma share. I have been working in the technology space for over a decade. Originally, I was an attorney. I went to Georgetown Law, and I worked at the Harrison Institute of Public Policy. I went to Georgetown to study public policy, and I worked at the Harrison Institute where I focused on labor and workers' rights, working directly with the AFL-CIO and the International Labor Organization. And then I got my MBA. Before I got my MBA, I met my wife. After I got my MBA from the University of Virginia, I spent time in technology at companies like Google and Microsoft. So yes, I know their secrets and I know the problems that they have. And I'm going to be leading on areas like the Digital Bill of Rights to protect people from big tech. But I also like to spend a lot of my time coaching and giving back to the community. I'm a coach. I actually just got back from soccer practice. And one of the things I think about, Cenk, to be honest, because I know this is something you're also very passionate about, and I'm sure Reverend Haynes thinks about this as well, is the fact that the kids that I'm coaching here, they have the same rights to living as the kids that are suffering in Gaza. Like they are dealing with not only this persecution, but just recently they tried to destroy the last soccer area for these kids to go practice in, this last soccer pitch. And luckily Miss Rachel came in, great humanitarian, and saved this soccer pitch. But the reality is it's not just soccer. These kids don't have a life that they can even live. When I took my son home, Sufyan, my baby, and we thought about the fact that we're so lucky not only that we had this amazing healthcare in America, which by the way, healthcare should be a human right for all Americans, and that's why Reverend Haynes and I support Medicare for all. But what about all the kids in Gaza that don't even have any sort of health care, not even hospitals, because they've all been demolished? that are lucky to survive past their birth. And then if they get to their house, they don't have a house left because it's been demolished and destroyed. And so for me as a coach right now, and as a parent, and as someone who's been a community leader, I've been involved with DFW Refugee Outreach Services, which is an organization dedicated to helping refugees get resettled in our country, helping them get skills so they can be productive members of society. All these organizations and community organizations that I'm involved with is about giving back to the community and being a public servant. Because the one thing that Reverend Haynes and I share is neither of us are politicians. Right. You know, neither of us spent time as mayors, as city council members, as state representatives and state senators and got bought by different people and got corrupt over the years. Both of us are public servants. If you look at Reverend Haynes, he is the forefront, one of the greatest ministers across the country. He is such an amazing leader. Someone who, by the way, I want you to know, has been on the right side of the Palestine issue for a very long time. He has been speaking out at protests and rallies for a long time, long before everyone started to jump on board. Reverend Haynes has been on the forefront of justice and social justice issues. And that's why I'm so proud to be standing next to Reverend Haynes as we run together to bring a progressive vision to not only Texas, but all of America.
Yeah, so a couple of quick comments before I go to Reverend Haynes. Miss Rachel is kind of an angel. I didn't know the story that you just told about her. And you could tell how evil the Israeli lobby is, that they targeted her for destruction. Like, just, it doesn't get any worse. And kids, we all want all the kids to be better off. And so we give so much money to Israel. And hey, good, their kids are taken care of. They have paid family leave so their moms and dads can be with them after they give birth. We don't. Certainly the Palestinians don't. The Palestinians are often get murdered after they're born by the Israelis. Over 1,000 kids under the age of 1, babies, killed by the Israelis in Gaza. And the Israelis have paid family leave, and they also have universal health care, take care of their kids, but we don't. But we sent over $300 billion to Israel, so.
Jack, can I just add one more thing there that's very important, I think that you brought up? The things that we just mentioned, Reverend Haynes and I are fighting for progressive issues like free education, free universal health care, and affordable housing. All three of these things that people say are impossible because it costs too much, Israel gives to all of its citizens. And we are giving them billions and billions of dollars to then commit atrocities in our name. I think that's unacceptable. And to be honest, one of the people I'm running against, Julie Johnson, she has gone so far to prevent even conversations about Palestine from happening. As a matter of fact, the AFL-CIO, as part of their interview process, was requiring all the candidates to have a conversation about Palestine. And every candidate agreed, except for Julie Johnson, and she prevented the conversation from happening. And this is something that no one knows about, but the fact is the AFL-CIO endorsement screening process was completely changed because of one individual who was so bought by the Zionist lobby, so bought by AIPAC, that she wouldn't even have a conversation about Palestine, and she didn't let any other person who was seeking the AFL-CIO endorsement from any certain level sign on and have that conversation. So to me, that's appalling. And that is why I'm so motivated every day to fight as hard as I can to make sure that we do not get any more Zionists in Congress. They're gonna fight for the Israeli people instead of the American people and allow for these atrocities to continue to occur.
Yeah, don't vote for robots. That's it. I mean, Julie Jones and Colin Allred are just robots. They take input from donors, output for donors. They vote for them. You'd be nuts to vote for people who raise their hand and go, I'll take bribes. I'll take a bribe. I've got an open auction on Allred, open auction on Julie Johnson. It's ridiculous. So, and then I won't talk about it because my donors ban me from talking about it. Well, then okay, your donors should ban you from Congress. Go home, clean up and go home. All right, Reverend Haynes, help me understand how one becomes a reverend. When did you first think, okay, you know what? Maybe this is the right calling for me, and how'd you get into it?
Wow. Well, first I have to say that both my father and grandfather, for whom I'm named, were pastors. My grandfather, Frederick Douglass Haynes Sr., who named himself, ironically, after the noted abolitionist, when he was just 9 years old, and had read so much about him. And the only name he knew was the nickname Bubba that his family had given him. He's orphaned at the age of 4, and his sister and his aunt raised him reading My Bondage and My Freedom. And When he went to school for the first time at the age of 9, the teacher said, "And what's your name?" And he said, "Frederick Douglass Haynes," right there on the spot. And so that for me in our family lore has become a lesson in that you don't always discover who you are as much as you decide who you are. And so when it comes to the whole calling and sense of call, I have to admit that I really tried to disqualify myself from this call to ministry. I wanted to have a good time in life. I didn't see ministry and good time as being synonymous. And yet I have to testify that when I finally said yes to what I felt, was a divine calling on my life, that the fulfillment has just been absolutely remarkable. True story. I'm a student at, Bishop College at the time, a school at HBCU in Dallas, and I am enamored with the ministry of Martin Luther King Jr. And so I'm reading Dr. King. Dr. King is talking about the influence of Howard Thurman on his life. And I begin to read Howard Thurman, who wrote about the importance of the, inner life, cultivating the inner life as we, move through life. And so it was through both the motto of Dr. King, because I wanted to have a ministry that was relevant to the, fight for human rights in this world. And the fact that, I just believe that if you believe in Jesus, you got to believe in justice. If you have faith, that faith ought to work. Which is why, again, I have so much love for Zishan, because Zishan is one who practices what he preaches without being a preacher. And so as far as I'm concerned, it is so necessary that we have that kind of mindset. So Dr. King became an early model, along with, people like Reverend Jesse Jackson and so many others who showed me that you really don't have a ministry unless, as Zishan said, it's about public service. It's about what you do for others. It's about making the world a better place, especially as it relates to correcting and transforming systems and structures that continue to produce outcomes that benefit those at the top at the expense of those who are left behind. And so all of that helped to go into my becoming, as you would say, a reverend, because I just felt that maybe there's a calling on my life to make this world a better place, not just feeding the hungry, but fighting hunger, not just being nice to those who are unhoused and giving them a handout, but fighting what it means to create systems that or as Dr. King called, edifices that create poor people. We've mentioned tonight on a lot of occasions, as well we should, a public policy, a foreign policy in this country that is morally inconsistent, that is filled with so much injustice. Dr. King said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." I'm convinced that public service, that ministry should be concerned about any injustice, be it in Palestine or be it in Paris, be it in Sudan or be it in the Congo or Haiti or Appalachia, wherever there is an injustice that produces poverty and people who are struggling, we have to take a stand. And I appreciate the fact that we can have this conversation right now, because since the ceasefire, quote unquote, that has taken place in Gaza, still you have hundreds, thousands of Palestinians who are being killed in the name of a ceasefire. Thousands of Palestinians who don't have access to health care. And how do you call yourself a person of faith who believes anything, be it God, humanity? How do you call yourself a person of faith and you're not concerned about human beings who don't have access to healing and human beings who are being treated in an inhumane fashion? And so all of that is in the mix of my being called to be a reverend.
All right, so I love that you're named after Frederick Douglass. He's the only person I quoted twice, same quote in my book, power never concedes without a demand. It never has, and it never will. So here are two brothers who are demanding that power concede. And so I appreciate that. All right, I promised fun questions. So this will be really quick, two fun questions, and then we'll end on a serious one.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Yeah.
I think that it's worth mentioning that, Reverend Haynes and I'm an American Muslim. And as a Muslim, I actually listen to Reverend Haynes, and I would say because Reverend Haynes has done so much for so many communities, he's done much more for American Muslims than most imams have done. And to me, I have so much respect to him and this joint coalition of interfaith partnership between an American Muslim running for Congress who is being attacked by Islamophobes every single day. I have someone next to me, Reverend Haynes, this leader, this great Christian leader, but he is a leader for all Americans. And to me, as a reverend, that to me is the beauty of America. The fact that we can build these bridges and have people come together from different faiths. And I just want to say that for me, following Reverend Haynes is something that he's someone that I think is someone who is going to be a great leader, not only for his current congregation, but he's going to be a great leader for America and for a very long time to come, I hope. But sorry to interrupt you, Jay.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And no, I love Muslims and Christians coming together. It drives the people in power crazy. They're like, no, we need you guys fighting. We need you fighting, and give me all your money. Okay, so all right, now the fun part. Zishan, what's your favorite TV show that you're watching these days?
I'm trying to finish Stranger Things. The most recent season just came out, but I just haven't had time, to be honest. But my wife loves Stranger Things, so that's going to be the show.
How about you, Dr. Haynes?
Well, don't judge me. I watch old reruns of A Different World, and sometimes Basketball Wives.
Okay, no judgment here. No way. All right, and Zishan, in high school, did you play a sport or band, or what was your extracurricular activities?
So I actually was a team assistant for the soccer team. I now am a soccer coach, but the sports that I played football. Surprisingly, I played football until I injured my collarbone, and that ended my football career as a freshman in JV. And then I ran cross country after that because that did not involve any physicality. So yeah, cross country.
Got you. And how about you, Dr. Haynes?
Played football my first year, and then I got cut from the basketball team. Never played basketball again, so not all black men can jump. And then I was a trackster, not a track star, but a trackster, meaning I won one race in my track career. So that's why I call myself a trackster, but not a track star.
Well, I'm right there with you. So I was a pretty good football player, but man, did I suck at track.
What position did you play, Jay?
You're gonna be shocked to find out, middle linebacker.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Of course, tackle the guy with the ball. That's what I'm good at. So that was fun. I enjoyed that. Last question is a serious one. This is a couple of shows smushed into one in a sense. One of them is Revolution. And so one thing we ask is, if there's one thing you could do to help basically a political revolution in this country, always nonviolent, always non-physical, of course, we're people that are of peace. What would be the one solution that if you could press a button, you would do to help fix this country and get the government back?
Wow.
Who do you want to go first, Jay?
Zishan, why don't you start?
All right, that's what I get for saying something.
Well, hey, I appreciate your courage.
No, of course. No, I think if there was one thing that I would do to make this happen is I would eliminate fear. And fear right now is at an all-time high. I think we are in a historic moment in our nation's history. Cenk, I think everyone will be asked, what did you do in 2026 when Donald Trump attempted to launch an authoritarian takeover of this country? He tried to make this into a fascist state. He launched his personal Gestapo, ICE. Part of eliminating fear would be an abolition of ICE.
Yeah.
Part of eliminating fear would be ending the Patriot Act. Part of eliminating fear would be ending the mass surveillance state. Part of ending fear would be removing Palantir from power. Palantir, which, by the way, Julie Johnson has made tons of money off of selling on congressional stock trading. She's made over $4.2 million in congressional stock trades in her first year in Congress while she was on the Committee on Homeland Security, ruling over Palantir. But getting rid of Palantir would be very important, and getting rid of the police state and holding people accountable, getting the Epstein files out so that people should not be afraid of their government. And I think our revolution, which is something that needs to happen, a true progressive revolution, which I think is possible, by the way. We saw it, what happened with Taylor Rumet, Christian Menefee, Analia in New Jersey. We see progressives winning all over the country right now. We saw what happened in 2025 with Zoran. There's a lot of hope, but there's also a lot of fear. People are afraid to go out and protest. People are afraid to exercise their right to vote. People are afraid. So a democracy does not exist in fear. Tyranny exists in fear. And we are stepping and creeping towards tyranny. And so for me, the biggest thing that I would like to eliminate to create the possibility for the true progressive takeover of this country is the fear that might prevent people from being a part of the political process. The fear that prevents people from demonstrating not only against ICE, but against authoritarianism, against people that are afraid to go out and protest against Gaza because people like Brother Yaqub in Dallas have been imprisoned by ICE because they were journalists that covered ICE, that covered the atrocities in Gaza because they were covering protests about Gaza. They had been DACA recipients like Brother Yaqub that are in prison. Brother Maher, who's a Palestinian American, who is now been in prison and his son has died. Brother Marwan, another Palestinian American, who was just sending money to Palestine, and that was a crime which caused him to be in ICE detention and then getting deported. I think fear is what we need to eliminate. And if we eliminate fear, we can bring back the American democracy, because the American democracy might be crumbling, it might be being attacked, but I believe that the American democracy is something that's worth saving. And I think there's people out there that want to save it.
Yeah, fear is a unique and good answer. And by the way, I would add to that, guys, don't stop. Like, I don't mind people scrolling. You got to find out what's true. Obviously, we're doing online media, but don't give into the doom scroll and get pessimistic and bury yourself on the couch. Get up and do something about it. And then in order to do that, you have to remain optimistic and hopeful, right? All right, Reverend Haynes, how about you? One thing you would change?
Yeah, well, first I have to say amen to what Zishan said. That was powerful. I would just partner with him, with my progressive partner, by saying I would want to end the war on the communities that are othered in this country. The sad reality is that a war has been declared. The rap artist T.I. would say a war has been declared and we don't even know it. And every day out of the White House, a political climate is just fed that attacks and otherizes those who are not like those who are up and in, not like the billionaire class. And so the bottom line is we see every day from a testimony that took place in Congress at the hand from the mouth of someone who was supposed to be the attorney for the nation, instead engaging in blatant disrespect. While she's doing that, a bill is passed in the House that is going to literally disenfranchise millions of Americans in the political process. And so this war that is going on so many levels. And so that's why, again, ICE must be abolished. I have to say amen to what Zishan said, because these are not isolated tragedies taking place. This is a system that has been set up. And so in this nation, unfortunately, there is this all-out war that has been declared on women, on the LGBTQIA community, on every single minority in this country. There is an all-out war that has been declared. And so for me, if we're going to be the United States of America, And that is, again, being true to what we said on paper. We must end the war that says if you are not like, that means you are less than. I think that Professor Eddie Glaude talks about the value gap that exists in this country. We have a wealth gap. We have an educational gap. All of that is framed by a value gap that says that some people are valued more than others. And so until we get rid of the value gap and end the war on those who are othered and recognize that what has the possibility of making this country the most unique country in the history of humanity is our diversity. What has the possibility of making this country phenomenal is the fact that all of us bring something to the table. I like, again, as I quote Reverend Jesse Jackson, the concept of a quilt, a beautiful quilt, not a melting pot where we all melt and lose our identity, but a quilt, if you please, where we bring the beauty of our diversity into making America as possible as America can become. And so we've got to end the war on the othered.
All right, Dr. Frederick Haynes, running in Texas 30, HaynesForCongress.com. Zishan Hafiz, ZishanForTexas.com and Texas 33. We'll have the links down below. You can click on them and check out their websites and help them run clean campaigns. Are people calling Zishan the Texan Mamdani? I guess, because I just said it. Okay.
I like that.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
All right. I love it. Christians and Muslims working together and trying to bring the United States of America back together. Can't get enough of it. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for everything that you do. And we love your journalism. It's keep fighting the good fight, because this is a scary time, but you're giving us hope when you're what you're covering and the people that you're amplifying, the voices that you're amplifying. You are giving us all hope in America. So thank you, Cenk. Thank you for
I know that's right. And let me just add, Jamel Hill, when she wrote her memoir, she said that she fell in love with journalism at Michigan State because the metaphor for journalism is to be the watchdog, protecting society. And Cenk, let me just say, I brag on you quite often as a real watchdog, protecting what's left of this democracy, and that's how we save it. So thank you so much for being our journalistic watchdog.
That's right, brother.
You guys are too kind. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everybody go support folks who are fighting for you and who are gonna protect you in Congress. All right, that's our show for tonight. We love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.